with you day and night. I can't get enough. Oh, nah. I can't lie. I love the way you're messing with my mind. I can't get enough of my sweet Madeline. You're the reason why I'm waking up smiling. Oh, my sweet Madeline. Your name is written all over my heart. I can't stop. Yeah, I wanna be the one to hold you close, 'cause you're the only one I'm dreaming of. My love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Tell me, do you feel the way I do? 'Cause I only wanna ride with you. My love, my love, my love, I wanna ride with you. My love, my love, my love, I wanna ride with you. Yeah. My love, my love, my love. The things you do to me, I can't escape it. The air that I breathe even speaks of you. Yeah. Oh, I can't lie. I love the way you're messing with my mind. I can't get enough of my sweet Madeline. You're the reason why I'm waking up smiling. Oh, my sweet Madeline. Your name is written all over my heart. No, I can't stop. So I'm not giving you up. No, I give you all that I got. Oh, I confess with each beat of my heart. Oh, I'll be true. So I'm not giving you up. No, I'll give you all that I got. Oh, I confess with each beat of my heart. Oh, I promise you. Oh, I wanna be the one to hold you close, 'cause you're the only one I'm dreaming of. My love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Tell me, do you feel the way I do? 'Cause I only wanna ride with you. My love, my love, my love, I wanna ride with you. Yeah. My love, my love, my love, I wanna ride with you. Yeah, yeah. My love, my love, my love, I wanna ride with you. Yeah, yeah. My love, my love, my love, I wanna ride with you. I wanna ride with you, baby. My love, my love, my love, my love.
What up, though? What up, though? It's your boy TayBiz, man. We are back in the building with another live, man, and we getting it in and we getting it popping. Let's go ahead and look at this comments here, the chat over here, chill in the building. I got a couple mods in the building saying, "Hey, what up, though?" She Lee said, "Well, well, well." I finally caught her live. Hey, TayBiz TV, I've been missing you. We've been missing you too. I have been missing you. Look. No, we be on X sometimes, we be here sometimes. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? TayQuez in the TayQuez in the building. Oh my God, not TayQuez, man. I was actually on Cat Night Williams live about a few days ago. And I mentioned that and also mentioned it on X. We were talking about this whole thing with another thing that Fani Willis is trying to do, which is just mind-boggling and crazy. We're going to get into that. We're going to definitely get into that. Chill out here showing love. Hey, Biz Nation, what up, though? All right. It's good to see everybody in the building, man. It's good to be back. Good to be here. You know, we haven't been live in a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get my schedule together. I'm still trying to get things popping. Trying to make time to make sure I get my videos edited. And I'm the only one. I'm doing pretty much everything on this channel as far as like editing and scheduling lives and scheduling videos and shorts and all that kind of stuff, man. So I'm just trying to do the best I can. And but we definitely getting it popping. We're definitely going to make sure that we are here every chance we get. I'm trying to get away from I'm just trying to do this all the time. That's my goal, is to do this all the time. But that's another thing here nor there. That's neither here nor there. Tracy Talks saying, yo, hey, y'all, hey to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and make sure you hit the like button, share this live real quick. Share it on X, share it everywhere, because we're about to get into the Karen Reed case. Now, let me tell you something. And I have to be real, when the Karen Reed case first came out, I wasn't really too deeply involved into it, for the simple fact that the YSL trial was still going on, and I was mainly interested in that. And I was also mainly interested in the Sean Mickey Steins, which is still, they're gathering evidence still for that case. We haven't had a trial date yet for that. But I was just, I wasn't really paying close attention, I guess. And I have to apologize, because I would have been talking about this a long time ago. This Karen Reed case is absolutely crazy. All right. It's absolutely crazy. I am really, it's another thing that I'm like, what is going on? We're going to deep dive into it a little bit and talk about it. I got some videos we're going to look at, and I think we're going to recap some stuff. I know that April the 1st started the actual trial, and then and so they're going through jury selection right now and things of that nature. I believe the last I saw, and I believe yesterday I saw that they have up to 10 jurors selected, and I think they're trying to get between 16 to 18, so that way they can have 12 jurors deliberate. Okay, so yeah, it's crazy. It's gonna be crazy. But before we get into that, we're going to get into we are going to get into the Fani Willis motion to revoke Young Thug's probation. And that was crazy. And the funny part is, Whitaker just gave a sweet, small, a very short no. All right, a very short, the shortest no motion I've ever seen in my entire life. It was quite funny, quite comical. But Sheely says, I have been missing Karen Reed, so I will hide in the bushes and just listen. I feel you on that. This case is crazy, man. And we're gonna get through the documentations and the motions, I guess, for with Fani Willis. And so and we're going to get into Brian Steele's response as well, and then we're going to go ahead and read the motion of denying that. However, before we get started, man, let's go ahead and see what we're going to do here about this Fani Willis thing. What is the deal with Fani Willis, man? She is on some other stuff, as always. Again, this is where prosecutorial misconduct and not understanding what you are supposed to do comes into play. What is it that causes or constitutes somebody's probation to be revoked? And so the fact that, and this is the reason why I remember somebody saying probation is jail outside, which is facts. This is the reason why you don't want to get involved with court, law, nothing, because they will find a way. They will conjure up something just to get you. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. They are going to conjure up anything they can to get you in a bind where you have to pay your time by going to jail. All it does is give them more incentive and more money from the state to do this stuff. That's all it is. So we're going to go ahead and get started, man. Let's go ahead and get into this, y'all. All right, that's my new little intro right there. You know what I'm saying? My new little intro. I hope it was fire. But remember when Fani Willis said this statement right here, and this is a couple years ago, but let's do a retake real quick of what she said about cracking down on gang violence.
Get out of this county or expect to start seeing sentences that go life plus. because I am not going to negotiate with gang members. I am not going to allow pleas. We are going to find you. We are going to convict you. And we're going to send you to the prison for the rest of your days. And I'm not apologizing for it.
So we are watching this
For the rest of your days. All right, for the rest of your days, I am going to get you up out of here. That's basically what she's saying, right? And she meant that. She meant that with every part of her body, mind, body, and soul. All right. And it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous the way that she goes about doing things. You know, it's kind of crazy. Let's go ahead and get into this documentation real quick. Let me drop myself down. Let me go get into this real quick. All right. This motion to revoke probation. All right. You said it was echoing. Uh-oh. Hopefully I can try to fix that. Hopefully I can try to fix that. It should be okay now. All right. So we're going to get into this real quick. It says here, it comes now the state of Georgia by and through the undersigned council and moves this honorable court to immediately revoke the probation, to revoke the probation of defendant Jeffrey Williams. The defendant has demonstrated a blatant disregard for the law, the safety of witnesses, and integrity of judicial proceedings. So let's background it here. October 31st, 2024, the defendant, Jeffrey Williams, was sentenced to probation with conditions that include no contact with the victim and the victim's family. The defendant pled guilty, and the conditions of probation were imposed pursuant to OCGA 42-8-35, which authorizes courts to establish and enforce conditions necessary to protect the public and uphold the administration of justice. Since sentencing, the defendant has engaged in conduct that directly threatens the safety of witnesses and prosecutors, compromises ongoing legal proceedings, and warrants immediate revocation of probation. Investigator Viverito, and a lot of people call her Burrito, is currently testifying in a multi-defendant gang member preliminary hearing, which remains ongoing and is set to reconvene on April the 7th, which is coming up, was a couple of days from now, on Monday. During this hearing, the court explicitly ordered that the witness not be shown on television while testifying. Despite this order, a known blogger deliberately violated the court's directive by posting on social media. She doesn't want to be shown on screen. Well, here she is, along with a photo of Investigator Viverito. That's a quote. And I believe this has something to do with Miss Sylvia, right? On Tuesday, April the 1st, 2025, Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug, amplified this act by reposting the image with the caption, "Marissa Viverito is the biggest liar in the DA's office." This post quickly went viral, amassing over 2 million views, with thousands of comments and retweets, many which included direct threats to Investigator Viverito and her family. That's going to be left under interpretation, I'm sure. Viverito's home address and her parents' home address were publicly posted, exposing them to grave danger. One post stated, if the hate is really real, then pull up on her mama crib, alongside a photograph of her mother's residence. That's Exhibit A. We will get into that. Hours later, an additional post emerged threatening the assassination of District Attorney Fani Willis. Oh, okay. So now there's an assassination attempt or a threat to you. Okay. The escalation from targeting a testifying witness to making a direct death threat against the elected DA of Fulton County is a grave and unprecedented attack on the justice system. A pattern of intimidation and court undermining. This is not an isolated incident. It is part of a calculated campaign of intimidation, harassment, and misinformation designed to undermine the legal process. Social media has been used as a tool to manipulate public perception, spread misinformation, and instill fear. I'm trying to figure out how is that the case when you all used social media in your case in chief. It's only a threat. It's only misinformation when you can't use it. It seems like that's the way it's working. These efforts have also included attempts to exploit the court's perceived stance of disdain toward the state by referring to Your Honor as YSL Whitaker. YSL Whitaker, dog. This ongoing manipulation of public perception through social media is intended to obstruct justice, silence witnesses, and threaten those who enforce the law. Legal basis of revocation says here that under OCGA 42-A-34, .1, a court may revoke a defendant's probation when they engage in new criminal conduct or violations that threaten public safety. So reposting something on social media is now engaging in a new criminal conduct. You can't post anything, you can't tweet anything or whatever, but now you're trying to say that this is a new criminal conduct in doing so. Posting things on social media is not criminal conduct. All right. It has to, if you're going to talk about conduct or anything of that nature, it has to have some type of intent. And what intent is there? The man is making a statement. He was right. Viverito is one of the biggest liars in the DA's office for sure, 100%. You know, and he can't do that. If he does it, it's a new criminal conduct or violation when he does it. When you all have you have literally been busted having an inappropriate arrangement in your own DA's office, utilizing funds to pay a man who is not specialized in any type of trial court or nothing. One, Nathan Wade is on your payroll. You misuse and mishandle funds. You didn't show up to a Georgia committee hearing before. You just did whatever. You was at a brunch or something like that, raising money on the East Coast. The same day you're supposed to be in court or at the hearing. But that's not, and you're on the list of prosecutorial misconduct in the state of Georgia. You're the DA. We talked about that on this channel before. And here it is. You have the audacity to say that this is a new criminal activity right here going on, and it's a violation, and it threatens public safety. The defendant's continued association with individuals actively involved in witness intimidation, threats of violence, and obstruction of justice constitutes a clear violation of probation conditions. These actions mirror the established tactics of criminal organizations as defined under OCGA 16-15-3, which are designed to instill fear, silence witnesses, and interfere with judicial proceedings. As a direct consequence of these actions, law enforcement resources have been required to provide security in response to the escalating threats and intimidation. Oh, okay. So now we have to update the security, like Marvin Sapp. Marvin Sapp had to update his security as well. Apparently, people have been putting out death threats to Marvin Sapp because he told somebody to close the doors at a convention a year ago. All right, okay. Georgia courts have consistently upheld the revocation of probation for conduct that endangers witnesses, obstructs justice, or threatens public officials. Failure to act decisively will only encourage further attempts to threaten, harass, and intimidate those involved in this case. The state asserts that not addressing this matter directly with the defendant would fail to serve as an adequate deterrent, given the gravity and escalating nature of these threats. Furthermore, as both the defendant and this court acknowledged during his plea and sentencing, the defendant wields insignificant influence. He wields significant influence, over people worldwide, amplifying the potential impact of his actions. And you can see Exhibit C. We will get into that. The need for the revocation is the integrity of this court and the safety of those involved in this prosecution are at stake. The defendant's probation should be immediately revoked to prevent further harm, ensure compliance with the law, and send a clear message. That's that clear message we just saw the video. You know, she want to send that clear message, right? That witness intimidation and threats against public officials will not be tolerated. The state urges this court to take swift and decisive action by revoking the defendant's probation and remanding them into custody without delay, like right now. Wherefore, the state of Georgia respectfully requests that this court schedule a hearing, to address immediately revoke or modify the defendant's probation as it deems appropriate. Order the defendant to reimburse the costs. Here it is. Here we go. Reimburse the costs incurred by law enforcement for the additional protective measures necessitated by their actions. Here we go. There's always money involved. The court is nothing but a bank. That's all it is. That's all it really is. It's just a bank. It's just another institution that collect funds. Not only do I want him in jail, thrown in jail for reposting something that somebody else did and having my own comment about it, but I also want you to force him to pay time and money because we had to get more officers to protect Viverito family and Viverito because her face was plastered all over the internet, which had been plastered a long time ago. Wasn't there a leaked video of Viverito and Lil Woody, when she was questioning him? It went viral. It was in 2022? Everybody and their grandma and them seen it. Everybody and them grandma and them seen it. So we need to have a hearing about this. And don't forget the money part, Judge. We need that money. Respectfully submitted, 2nd day of April. Let's look at these exhibits here. So we got Exhibit A. Let's bring this down some. Miss Sylvia. Infamous Sylvia posted this here. Viverito's testimony footage, the footage everyone's been waiting for. And she covered her face. This is the footage. All right. And so here we have Young Thug, biggest liar in the DA office. Now, if you are talking about playing some good semantics, this could be anyone. However, because the name is up here, then it's undeniable that he's talking about Viverito. But if it was just this without the other part, it could, oh man, that would have been so slick. All my homies hate Viverito. I mean, oh my God, the threat is crazy, it's imminent. Them has used the live at altitude and got my Airbnb shut down. Uh-oh. Trigger warning for people who don't like certain hand gestures. If the hate is real, if the hate is really real, then pull up on her mama crib. Mikey Day 100. Do you see an address anywhere? I mean, even if we zoom all the way in, you really can't see that address. Right? Okay. Exhibit B. I I would personally make sure Fani Willis is assassinated. Somebody posted this. Somebody's crying laughing. Daredevil season 4. I don't know who that is. Snake Fang. I don't know who that is. No addresses. It was a thank you. It's a property listing. It was a property listing. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, Fanny covered the picture in the documents. I'm sorry. Okay. It's not covered on the website. Well, okay. If it's not covered on the website, but it's she act like we don't already know what she looked like. She is so ridiculous. She act like we don't already know what Viverito looked like in the first place. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. My man Brian Steele had a response. Straight to the point response. Mr. Williams responds to the state's motion to revoke probation. This is Brian Steele now. It comes now, Jeffrey Williams, by and through undersigned counsel, and hereby files this response to the state's motion to revoke probation in the above referenced case. In support of this response, Mr. Williams shows as follows. On or about April, let me go ahead and drop myself real quick so we all can see this. On or about April 2nd, 2025 at 7:48 p.m., the state filed a motion to revoke probation for Mr. Williams. The prosecution must place in writing, pursuant to the due process clause of the United States Constitution as well as the Georgia Constitution, the specific act or acts that Mr. Williams supposedly committed to violate his probationary sentence. What are these specific acts? Okay. No direct threats. There was no direct threats at all. Putting it on social media is not a direct threat. All right. As shown below, the prosecution's motion to revoke Mr. Williams' probation fails on its face. Bro, I love Brian Steele, man. Fails on its face to allege any conduct by Mr. Williams that would rise to a violation of the probationary sentence taken in the light. Taken in the light most favorable to the prosecution's allegations in the motion to revoke probation. This honorable court could not find as a matter of fact and or law that Mr. Williams did anything. Basically. Oh my goodness, man. He said he has a case law, Miller versus State. The Honorable Court of Appeals of Georgia reversed the trial court's determination that Mr. Miller violated his probation since there was no evidence to support these findings. There is no evidence. There's a TV show that has come out called Happy Face on Paramount Plus. If you got Paramount Plus, go ahead and watch that. Happy Face. There's a scene in Happy Face, I believe in episode number 2, where the lawyer, the lead prosecutor and lawyer for the state or whatever, is saying to these two individuals, "You're giving me all this fluff, but I need hard evidence." That's what he said. I need hard evidence. Fani Willis, where is the hard evidence that he intimidated a witness? Where's the hard evidence that he threatened? Where's the hard evidence that he said something about assassinating you? Where's the hard evidence of it? You went to social media. So that lets me know, and let everybody else know that these people are on social media just like we are. They're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. They are creating cases based on social media instead of hard evidence. This is the laziness. This is just the laziness, and it's the manipulation, and it's the crumminess, and it's the snakeness of these DAs, man, of these prosecutors. Prosecutors are so lazy. super lazy. They do not want to do the work that it takes to actually build a case. This is nothing. It says the state's motion to revoke probation must allege conduct which is proven by a preponderance of the evidence shows that Mr. Williams violated a term of his probation in the specific manner charged in the motion to revoke probation. See Moten versus State. As discussed below, taken in the light most favorable to the prosecution's assertions, Mr. Williams did not violate any term of probation, and thus the state's motion to revoke probation must be dismissed at this time with prejudice. The material allegations in the state's motion to revoke probation are as follows. At a preliminary hearing in an unrelated case, the magistrate court ordered that no witness be shown on television while testifying, and a known blogger deliberately violated that court's order by posting on social media a photograph of investigator Viverito. This allegation has nothing to do with Mr. Williams. Let's go, dog. It has nothing to do with Mr. Williams. First, even the known blogger did not violate the magistrate's court's order as asserted in the state's motion to revoke Mr. Williams' probation because there was no image shown of investigator Viverito while testifying in this unrelated proceeding. This allegation cannot support the revocation of Mr. Williams' probation. Mr. Williams, quote unquote, amplified this blogger's act by reposting the image with the caption, Marissa Viverito is the biggest liar in the DA's office. First, there is no suggestion that Mr. Williams knew of the magistrate's court's order not to show investigator Viverito on television while testifying. Second, the allegation asserts that Mr. Williams reposted an image and wrote a caption. This allegation does not violate the magistrate's court's order or Mr. Williams' conditions of probation. Third, there is no violation of Mr. Williams' probation by reposting an image on social media and opining that investigator Viverito is untruthful. Nothing. There is nothing in violation of that. Okay, you talking about he's violating his probation? How? Having an opinion about somebody that works for you is not of the opposite of what you may feel. Is not a violation of anything. Lady is crazy, man. The prosecution asserts that Mr. Williams' repost went viral, and unknown persons commented on same, which included supposed threats to investigator Viverito, her family, as well as the district attorney. Mr. Williams, under assigned counsel, and all moral persons do not condone threatening another without justification. However, these comments on social media by unknown persons cannot be attributed to Mr. Williams in order to support a violation of his probationary sentence. The state's motion also says this, that they want to revoke Mr. Williams' probation, then list direct threats in attached exhibits. Again, the allegation did not allege any act attributed to Mr. Williams to support a violation of the probationary sentence. The prosecution speciously alleges that Mr. Williams is conducting a calculated campaign of intimidation, harassment, and misinformation designed to undermine the legal process and other baseless assertions. Shut up. Everybody put Brian Steele in the chat, man. Just put Brian Steele in the chat, yo. This dude is outside of his mind. I love this dude. These conclusions do not support a motion to revoke Mr. Williams' probationary sentence, and the remainder of the state's motion to revoke probation is argument without any substance to allege an illegal or unlawful act conducted by Mr. Williams. A revocation of Mr. Williams' probation involves the loss of liberty, which is a serious deprivation. He has case law for that as well. Additionally, I like this little footnote here. Additionally, if a hearing is needed, there will be no competent evidence that Mr. Williams was the person to repost any image or write any caption as alleged in the state's motion to revoke probation. I'm sorry. This is hilarious. Therefore, Mr. Williams is entitled to due process of law. See Meadows versus Settles. Meadows versus Settles. This honorable court may not revoke any part of Mr. Williams' probation unless Mr. Williams admits the violations as alleged in the state's April 2nd, 2025 motion, or unless the evidence produced at the revocation hearing establishes by preponderance of the evidence the violations alleged. In the case at bar, in the light most favorable to the prosecution's motion to revoke probation, Mr. Williams can admit to all of the allegations alleged and still not have violated any terms of his probationary sentence. Oh my goodness, man. This is like poetry in motion right here, man. I love this, man. Even if he admits to everything, like, yeah, I did all that, it still does not violate his probation. It doesn't violate his probation. Okay. There were terms of his probation that we all heard. There is no violation of the probation, dog. Thus, the state's motion to revoke probation is deficient. I mean, he is just surgical with the vocabulary, man. Therefore, Mr. Williams asks this honorable court to deny the state's motion to revoke probation without a hearing. If a hearing is needed, Mr. Williams will be prepared. Trust me and believe that. Wherefore, Mr. Williams respectfully requests this honorable court to order that motion to revoke probation be denied April 3rd, 2025. All right. Yo, this is hilarious. I love Brian Steele, man. I love Brian Steele. Ain't this crazy, though? Think about it. Isn't this absolutely insane? Isn't this absolutely insane? I mean, how are you able to do this here? How are you able to do this? You have nothing left to do. It's ridiculous. So so check this out though. This is a sweet to the point response right here from Whitaker. It's literally one. I don't even know if it's a whole paragraph. It's like 4 sentences, dog. Check this out, y'all. Check this out. Oh my goodness. This is the actual. This is Whitaker's. You see Whitaker name down there. She signed off on this. This is all she said. Okay. Upon consideration of state's April 2nd, 2025 motion, and just luck would have it, it's the day after April Fool's, which is crazy, right? Motion to revoke defendant's probation, which alleges a violation of the terms and conditions of defendant's probation for having posted a picture of a particular law enforcement officer with the caption, "Biggest liar in the DA office," and defendant's April 3rd, 2025 response thereto, and having reviewed the terms and conditions of defendant's probation imposed by this court, the court declines. The court declines. Look, come on now. The court declines. The court declines to revoke defendant's probation based on the violation asserted. And the footnote says, while the court does not find that the cited social media post rises to the level of a violation of defendant's probation, it may be prudent for defendant to exercise restraint regarding certain topics. We can live with that. We can live with that. Shout out to Whitaker. She finally did something correct that we all can appreciate. Okay. Finally. Oh man, this was hilarious. This was hilarious. So that is the way that went. That went very smooth. It didn't take a long time. There was no hearing, thank God. All it took was, okay, enough is enough. We need to make sure that he do the right thing. Next time, show some restraint. Don't post everything. Don't respond to everything. But this was very interesting that you would actually think that this is worthy of violating probation, which means you don't even care. And again, we need to face that truth. No one cares. There's no care in the world at all from the state about anybody. All they care about is that money. They care about that money, man. All right, we're about to go ahead and get into this Karen Reed topic, man. Have anybody been keeping up with this Karen Reed case at all? Anybody? Let me know in the chat real quick. I know for me, I had not really paid attention deeply with this particular case because, again, I was too busy covering YSL from time to time. And then I was also interested in this Mickey Stein's hearing and things of that nature. And it was some other stuff going on with Woody and all that kind of stuff. So 2024 was different. It was a different time. And that Karen Reed case kind of slipped right by me. Now that I've been deep diving a little bit into this thing, I don't know what the heck is going on here. She'll say, I have, and it's nuts. Exactly. Treasy Talk said me. Sheely said, no, I feel you. I feel you, I feel you. She said, even during the YSL trial, I was all in. I've been all in. Look, the accusation is that Karen Reed allegedly hit her police officer boyfriend, Mr. John O'Keefe, ran into him with her SUV, and the evidence of that is a broken taillight on the right side of her vehicle. Okay. Now, I'm not a police officer. I'm not a forensics, I'm not a forensic evidence person. I don't do forensics or anything like that. However, I am, based upon the autopsy photos that I have, and I'm going to share this with everyone. So I want everyone to please keep in mind that this is going to be the autopsy of John O'Keefe. And this is a trigger warning in case you are have a weak stomach, or in case you are very sensitive to certain graphic type of photos and pictures. I advise that you do not watch this part, of the live, and watch a different part if you can. But this is kind of crazy because there are several first of all, everybody was drinking this night. Everybody, including Karen. They had an argument that morning. It was crazy. They kind of like made up with it or whatever. They're like, you know what? We're going to go out and, we just hang out, forget about it, blah, 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 whatever. At the scene, his body was laid in the snow in front of a fellow police officer's house. Not just a police officer. I believe he's a sergeant or detective. Homicide detective, I believe. By the name of Brian Albert. Okay. He is laying in the snow. This is where the blizzard, it was like a super huge, heavy blizzard came through Canton, Massachusetts, this particular night. And when he was in the vehicle with Karen, he goes out the vehicle and he approaches the house, but they sit there for a minute and discuss things with each other because Karen is like, hey, I don't see any lights on. Like, are they here? All that kind of stuff. And he's going out there to check and everything like that. And next thing you know, she leaves him there. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, she dropped him off there. Well, I believe that was the initial intent. But he was supposed to come back to let her know, like, everything's cool. You could just park your wicked car, okay, and roll in here with me. The issue is that he never came back, and so Karen left, is what that whole thing was. Now, the thing about it is that according to the witnesses of the trial, Jenny McCabe and all them, they're saying, hey, Karen Reed was saying, I hit him. But if you look at the actual dash cam of the police, she says, did I hit him? Did I do this? Okay. Now, what's very interesting to me is one particular thing so far is that there is not 1 ounce, 1 click, 1 second of police body cam footage. I have not seen not 1 piece of body cam footage at all in this Karen Reed case. If anybody else has, please email me, taybiztv@gmail.com. I would love to see it. I have not seen 1 piece of body cam footage at all. At all. Everybody's stories is getting mixed up. And see, this is the reason why body cam footage is important. Because if there was body cam footage, that means that you would have better audio as well. But there haven't been any. I find that very interesting. That's not so wicked smart, okay? I just love Boston accent. I don't understand this at all. The evidence, and Tracy Talk says something right here. It was the red Solo cups that had me in a chokehold. They collected John O'Keefe's blood samples, allegedly, John O'Keefe's blood samples, and put them in red Solo cups. 6 red Solo cups in a brown paper bag. I only saw 1 cup that had some like a nice amount of blood in it. The rest were just kind of like in there a little bit. One of the witnesses said that they went next door to someone's house to see if they had any cups so they could collect evidence. No one from forensics was on the scene. Then they had a snowblower. They're blowing snow all everywhere at this crime scene. Why do you have a snowblower at a homicide scene? Okay. John O'Keefe was laying in that snow for hours. When the ambulance came to get him, he was still technically alive. He was not pronounced dead until they went to the Good Samaritan Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. Now, this is the accusation. The accusation again is that Karen Reed used, okay, her vehicle to hit John O'Keefe, whether it was voluntarily or involuntarily. The evidence doesn't show, based on his autopsy, that he could have gotten hit with just a taillight of a vehicle. I'm about to show the autopsy photos. Please, if you have a weak stomach, do not watch this. Okay? Here we go. All right. It says here the cause of death. During autopsy, the medical examiner found several abrasions to Officer O'Keefe. His right forearm, he had 2 black eyes, a cut to his nose, a 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, and multiple skull fractures. The medical examiner also observed hemorrhaging of the stomach and pancreas. Let me ask you a question, a simple question. Somebody runs into the back of you with their vehicle, and the only evidence that even looks like could be evidence that they hit you is a broken tail light. But the cause of death, the medical examiner shows all of this. The medical examiner found all of this. Now, cause of death, blunt impact injuries of the head, hypothermia. Okay. Manner of death, the manner of death is undetermined. Okay. These are the top autopsy photos of John O'Keefe. Here we go. That's the laceration, the 2-inch laceration in the head. He has bruises on his hand. He has 2 black eyes right here. These are the abrasions on his forearm. Okay? This is John O'Keefe's autopsy report. These are the actual photos of this report. I mean, I know I ain't been live in a minute. You know what I'm saying? But your boy ain't still lost his touch. We still got evidence. What? That's a good question, Sheely. Was he fighting someone? Exactly. How does a person get all of these injuries from a tail light of a vehicle? Now, do I have my own observations about Karen Reed as a person? You bet I do. However, it doesn't mean that she did this. This is beyond a taillight situation. Okay, who hit him here? Who hit him here? And what did they hit him with? Multiple skull fractures, 2 black eyes. So you mean to tell me the tail light on the right side, on the passenger side, caused 2 black eyes to this gentleman? 2 black eyes. Okay. Tell me anything. Tell me anything. Okay. Now, one of the things that has been happening is that Karen Reed has been speaking out. As a matter of fact, Investigation Discovery just made a documentary with her not too long ago. And it's a lot of her talking with the lawyers and things like that. They're not saying anything too much to incriminate herself. However, behavior can also dictate a person's perception and judgment when it comes to being a juror. Oh, she's not crying. She's not remorseful. She just lost her boyfriend 2 years ago. She's not doing this, blah, 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 right? But also there are so many loopholes and things in this case where Karen Reed had a very argumentative type of behavior. That night, I believe, another gentleman by the name of who's the other guy? Not Brian Albert, but the other Brian, the one that threw the phone. He threw his phone out. He threw his phone out at a military base. He separated the SIM card from the phone. He tossed both in separate places. Brian Higgins. Brian Higgins is a ATF agent. He's an ATF agent who is a friend of Brian Albert. Chris Albert is the son of Brian Albert. Jenny McCabe, Matthew McCabe. And this is the crazy part is that the crazy part is the hair that belongs to John O'Keefe. They found it on the back of the truck near the tail light that was broken, but they had a blizzard that whole day and night, that whole night and day. Also, they pulled this truck, put it on the tow truck. They placed it in the garage where they go look for where they look at the evidence. Okay. And when they get there, they took a picture of a little bitty piece of hair that was stuck on the car, stuck on the back of the vehicle by the tail light. And it matched John O'Keefe. Really? So you're telling me that throughout all that snow and blizzard, you was able to find a half-inch long piece of hair that belonged to John O'Keefe on the back of a truck that had melted snow coming off of it? What in the world is going on here? What is going on here? Now, see, this is the reason why, again, I am not a fan of defendants talking during a trial or having any type of TV time, because they will say something as cut and dry as this case could be. I mean, after all, it did end in a mistrial. There was a hung jury on one of the counts. The other two counts was unanimous. They was like, no. This is the reason why you should not let your clients talk. This is Karen Reed. And man, listen. She said something. I'm like, Jesus, no, just be quiet, Karen. This is two separate times where she was on Dateline, did an interview. Then she was also talking in her documentary about the same thing. Two different time frames. She talked about the same thing. Watch this.
The ring videos after I was indicted that I could see clearly I bumped the back of John's car.
Your parking space?
Backing out of a garage.
Out of a garage. Is that at John's house?
At John's, yep.
In backing up, did you bang into his car?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Did you feel it? Did you hear it?
Yeah, I felt a little.
Okay, she told Dateline that she felt a little bump, which means she felt like she hit the car. But in the previous video, she said, I'm just now seeing the fact that I hit his car while I'm watching this video right now with you. Dog. Dog. Shut up, man. This is the reason why defendants need to be quiet.
And I
On your back right,
on my passenger back right. Yep.
you
I
felt
hit
it.
John's back left. I looked at the ring.
Yo. Thank you. She needs to be quiet while she is listen. Thank you. Ma'am, you are tripping right now. You tripping right now. This case couldn't be no more clean. You can't get no better than this. Why are you talking? Why are you talking? We're going to get into this video. We first going to get into this evidence that probably changed the game in a lot of ways with this case. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. And then we're going to get in. Then we're going to get into, and see, now we're going to get into the psyche of Karen Reed a little bit in the next video. Let me know if you can hear it. Let me know if y'all can hear this. Just put a 1 in the chat when I press play.
Did you, in fact, Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client. Karen was screaming, Google hypothermia, how long does it take to die in the cold?
How about?
And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
You see this first search that says how long to die in cold?
I do.
What's that time?
2:27.
Now, you indicate that you did that, you made that search at 6:23 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And then you indicated that you did it again thereafter at 6:24, correct?
Correct.
And then of those 3 searches, one of them ended up deleted. Isn't that right?
I never deleted any search.
Okay, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
Did you delete that search because you knew that you would be implicated in John O'Keefe's death if that search was found on your phone?
Objection.
Could you answer that, please?
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
Okay. How intense is this? You know how some people, they lie so bad that they get mad that you're finding out that they're lying. So they act like her. they act like her. See the lady right here? They act like her. Yes, she's testified in the first trial. See, Jenny McCabe, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, those 3 in particular, and I believe his son or somebody else, they all testified in the first trial, and they are summoned to testify again. And listen, there is new evidence of John's phone that we're going to get into where it shows how many steps were taken from John O'Keefe from the house to the place where he was laid or where he went to and was lying there in the cold snow. Okay. And it shows the same distance between where he was at and where the phone was unlocked for the steps to be taken was the exactly 83 or some odd feet. The locking of the phone, all of it was manipulated. This is the evidence that is coming from John O'Keefe's phone. We're going to get into that too. All right. We're going to get into that too. I'm feeling good tonight. I'm feeling all right. If y'all feeling this, put a fire in the chat real quick if you're liking this so far. All right. His Apple Watch shows him going up and down stairs. All of this is new, unlocked evidence. All right. Now, this is the thing that's very, very interesting. No, this is Jenny McCabe. This is Jenny McCabe. This is not Karen Reed. Karen Reed did not testify in her first trial. That doggone Apple Watch is a beast, ain't it, boy? Jen McCabe is the sister of Brian Albert's wife. They're all family. Her husband is Matthew McCabe. Her sister is married to Brian Albert, who owns the house. He owned 34 Fairview Road, what is his house. And they had a dog in the house. Okay. They had a dog. All right. And the dog, they got rid of the dog and the house. Oh God. Oh Lord. So this is the testimony of Jen McCabe. She is the one who searched. How long does it how long to die in the cold? The house, the dog, and the phone gone. But thank you. The house gone, the dog gone, and the phone all gone. Karen Reed is being accused of running into John O'Keefe with her back of her car when she arrived back at 34 when she was at 34 Fairview, and being accused of leaving him outside in the cold and just driving off. She had already left, and then now his body come out there. All of a sudden. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The defense expert, Rick Green, he says not only did Jen McCabe do the search at 2:27 a.m., she deleted it.
We found a Google search that happened, and it was in a deleted state.
Okay. So Adam Lally called two cell phone experts to say, hey, this didn't happen.
The assumption that is the time of the search is a misunderstanding of the browser state DB artifact, because that artifact is not the time of search, it's the time of movement of the tab.
If, for example, at 12 p.m., I create a new tab, I can do a search for whatever I want. If I create a 12 o'clock tab, minimize Safari. I can leave it for several hours, for several days, for several weeks. The timestamp is not updated. So I can search for something in 3 weeks' time using the same tab I opened today, and the timestamp will show today's time.
But then you have...
False. False. Metadata will show every part of a search, the time, the location, the device type, almost down to the serial number. If I leave a tab open and I search something at 11:30 and I just close the app, I just close Safari, I could go back and type something else and search something else in that same tab. When you look at the metadata of that search, it will tell you the time that I searched it in that tab that was open. It'll tell you when that tab was open and what time everything was being searched in that open tab. It's called metadata. Forensic data the forensic process of data will unpack it even more than that. So this notion that, oh, it just shows what the time that the tab was open. Well, if you search the same thing twice while the tab was open and it gives you 2 different times, what is that telling you, sir? What is that telling you? See, so that's not all things that are lawful are not all expedient, which means that just because the tab is open in this case, because the tab is open, it doesn't mean that this time is stuck on the process of the data that's being utilized in that tab. Okay, yeah, make sure you what time the tab is open, but when you look at the forensic data of that tab, it will also show you what time every single thing was being searched in your phone. The reason why it will do that is because your phone has an algorithm. This is the reason why you can open up a tab or open up something and then it will come up the very thing you probably said. You've been talking about carrots all day. Then all of a sudden you open up Facebook and you see a carrot ad. That's because it's keeping the algorithm. Algorithm is data that is being manipulated by the user, by voice or by text. So what the first guy is saying is that not only am I able to see when the tab is open, not only was I able to see what she texted and search for, I'm also able to see that she deleted it. That's called forensic data. So you get the metadata, and then you get the forensic data from there.
I have a defense witness, Rick Green, who comes in and says that, no, those experts are wrong. They were using the wrong iOS. They were not using, I guess, the iOS that Jen McCabe had, and that's why he says their data is wrong. So it's a total battle of experts.
One of the things that Green did concur with is that Jennifer McCabe was also searching a private basketball team for her daughter. And by the way, after I do that, I should see how long John has until he dies on that front lawn where I just left him. Does that make sense? No, of course, it's rhetorical. It doesn't. It's absurd. It's ludicrous. What makes more sense is she went to the scene. Karen Reed was frantic and was asking her and the paramedic, how long is it until someone dies having been left out in the cold?
All right, sir, you are all set.
Thank you.
Crazy work. So she's asking her phone approximately how long do it take for a body to go cold turkey, basically. And she's like, I searched that at the request of Karen. Really? Well, now that John's phone is unlocked, matter of fact, let's just get into that part. Because this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So, shout out to Olivia on X, who has been diehard in this boy like crazy. And it shows here that it says that it's been revealed that Officer John O'Keefe's cell phone's last activity was user manipulation to lock the phone at 12:32:09 a.m. by the user pressing the side lock button briefly. To believe that John was hit by Karen Reed's car and unalived, you'd have to believe that his final moments, and despite having just sustained an incapacitating head injury, he had the clarity of mind to take his phone out of his pocket and lock it. Okay? Of course, though, this would require you to ignore all of the other Apple Health Movement data like the flight of stairs climb, thereby putting John and his phone inside the house. So if he's climbing up and down the stairs, he's inside the house. What was the witnesses saying? They saying John never came in the house. Jenny McCabe, who we just saw testify about that search, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, everybody that was in that house. Another young lady, if you can give me the list of names in the chat, somebody. There was another young lady in the house. I think her name was Rachel or something like that. I can't remember right now. But all these people are in the house saying John never entered into the house. However, when you look at John's data in his phone and his Apple Watch and things of that nature, the Apple Health Movement data, it shows that this man went up some steps, climbed some steps. Now, what was going on in that house? You can't tell me that this dude was just, he never came in the house. So what happened to him? However, the phone being manually manipulated, locked by pressing the side button as its last user activity does seem to line up with the notion that John's phone was potentially run out from the door of the house to the location where his body would later be placed atop of it. It seems like an awful coincidence that from 1231 to 1232, his phone traveled the exact same distance from the front door to where his body would be found on top of the phone at 6:04 a.m. if he never went inside the house. So from 1231 to 1232, in this approximate time, his phone traveled somehow from the front door all the way to where he was laid at, and his body would be found on top of the phone at 6:04 a.m. The phone being manually locked during this same time period when these steps are being taken also suggests that someone was deliberately moving with and manipulating the phone to run it out just moments after Karen Reed left to go home, which would have had to have been by 12:30 a.m. at the latest to put her home and connected to the Wi-Fi at One Meadows Avenue at 12:36 per Nicholas Gorino's testimony. If you're wondering why the McAlberts, party goers inside the house, like Jen and Matt McCabe, were so feverishly watching Karen Reed's vehicle as it sat outside 34 Fairview, perhaps this might also explain why. We have all this here. Let me see if I can get to this. I can't zoom in to see here. So there's a part here. I know you might be able to see it. It said, per report from Ian Whiffen, O'Keefe's cell phone data showed, most notably, all device lock events, including the final lock event at 12:32, were user initiated by the user pressing the side button briefly. Even the data shows that it was manipulated. Okay, this here is also the cell phone data that gives us the steps and all that kind of stuff here. I can't seem to blow this up like I want to. I'm just blowing up the actual screen, not the actual document. However, it shows the steps. I think it shows the same amount of steps that it would take from the front door to the place where the body was laid. Here are some. Here we go. This is the meters. It's like 25.47 meters. That's 83.56 feet. And then the house where his body was laid to here is exactly 82.21. So it's like 82 feet. 83 feet, 82 feet. So that means that there's a little bit of distance from where they was leaving from in the house to go put this phone where his body was laid. And it's exactly not too far off from the distance between the door and where he was laying, which means that I'm not sure what type of the state that he was in. If you got multiple skull fractures, if you're getting all these things done to you, your forearm is messed up, you got 2 black eyes, you're having, of course you're dizzy. Of course, how did you walk there clean walk over there without any help, and you just laid there? You see what I'm saying? That doesn't even make sense that somebody is able to do that. Multiple skull fractures, several abrasions. You got 2 black eyes. You're hemorrhaging on the low. You're hemorrhaging. Your pancreas is messed up. And you was able to just walk out the front door? No. Someone carried you there and laid you there. Now, mind you, was already snow on the ground. This is where the blizzard was getting really intense. So at the end of the day, there is no possible way, when it comes to common sense, that he was able to do this alone, which means there is something that happened to him in that house. And somebody knows it, but they do not want to come clean about it. So, something in the buttermilk ain't right. Karen Reed, is this a cover up? Just curious. That's what I'm curious about. I am curious about the same thing. And what are they covering up? As a matter of fact, let's go deeper. The lead investigator of this case was a trooper named Michael Proctor. He's been fired because he had some misconduct on the job and he was drinking on the job. And he was also saying things about Karen Reed that was inappropriate, that he admitted to on the witness stand. And he cool with the McAlberts. On top of that. And if this is a cover-up, what are they covering up in particular? They got to be covered. You have a fellow officer in the front yard of your house, sir. You, as a matter of fact, sirens and ambulance and everybody's outside, and you was still in house. You never came outside, dude. Brian McAlbert never came outside of his house to see what was going on. Meanwhile, Higgins is on the road, headed to the military base to throw his phone off. Never interviewed the homeowners. There you go. Tracy Talk says never interviewed the homeowners, ever. Like, what is going on here? And this man is lying there in the cold, and by the time the ambulance comes, it's too little too late. He's already ready to go. And by the time they get to the hospital, that's when he's pronounced gone. They never came outside. Brian McAlbert, his wife, they never came outside. Unbelievable. Let's get into this video. This is Karen Reed speaking out in this video. This is a part of her documentary, or the documentary of A Body in the Snow by Karen. I think it's on Max. It's on Investigation Discovery is the name of the channel. And if you want to watch Investigation Discovery, if somebody can, if one of the mods can go ahead and drop the link to the channel, Investigation Discovery, I believe that's the name of the channel. Yep, Investigation Discovery. As a matter of fact, I'll just share. Let me see if it'll just share this link. But if somebody could share the actual link, that'd be dope. I would definitely appreciate that. Yeah, it's on Max if you want to watch it, and you can binge watch it. I mean, and I know Shelee said in the chat that she's not really familiar with this. So if you watch this, you would see her side of this whole thing, but you will also see the amount of traction it's gotten. I think it's getting more traction now than before, because before I was not really deep into this case, but now I'm like, I can't stop watching this stuff, man. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Let's go ahead and get into this video real quickly.
So then we take marshmallow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we find stick.
Now that's John O'Keefe right here, and they're doing this as a home video.
Maybe we can use the home.
Oh, see, John died 2 years, 2 months ago. And there's been, an evolution of my emotions about John. The funny thing is, I've now eclipsed the time I knew John. I mean, I knew him when we were younger, but the time I actually dated him more seriously the second time around was just 2 years, just shy of 2 years. And now he's been gone 24 months. I think anybody who witnessed us around Canton at kids' sporting events or out to eat or at bars would say we were always getting along.
You had occasion to meet or see Karen Reed over the course of hanging out with your brother at various occasions, correct?
Correct, yep.
What, if any, occasions, as far as they're arguing or anything like that, did you observe personally yourself?
I witnessed, one intense fight between the two of them.
And as far as the fight, as you're characterizing that, was that anything physical or just verbal?
No, it was a verbal argument.
And what, if anything, was that verbal argument about?
It's hard to recall. I mean, I guess like typical couples fighting. There was alcohol had been involved. I recall her complaining that he wasn't nice to her, or something to that effect, and I was kind of the referee in that entire situation.
A few days before he died, John hung a chandelier in my house, in my stairwell, which is, I've hung chandeliers in my house, but not in the stairwell. And John brought his ladder and rolled his sleeves up, and I was cooking for him and to thank him for hanging the chandelier. And in the first few months after his death, when I was trying to figure out what had happened to him, and I was still getting evidence to piece it together, every time I'd go up and down my stairs from my bedroom down to the kitchen, I'd turn the light on. I'd be like, all right, just literally and figuratively, please enlighten me, John. The first 6 months and 9 months, I missed the role that John had in my life and my routine, and talking to him and just going to the phone and he's not there. And I can't even, I've never dated someone or been intimate with someone that they're just completely extricated. You can't get a hold of them anymore. It was just a weird feeling, but now I just want to save myself, and I just want to be who I was before this. And I care less about fighting for John.
See, this is the reason why defendants need to be quiet. Hear what she just said. I'm starting to care less to fight for John. See, this is the reason. This is the reason why. This is what this documentary was a good and bad idea. And because the more and more you hear her talk, you feel this level of insensitivity that's like this really should be about making sure that we find out what happened to him. This is what we should be talking about. There is something corrupt going on in Boston, and we need to find out what it is. Did John stumble across some stuff that wasn't right, and he like, yo, man, I may have to go to somebody about this? What was it? It's something else besides just this, because we saw the autopsy photos earlier in this video. There is no way that a truck, a tail light, okay, this man got hit by the tail light of the passenger side vehicle. There is no way, according to the autopsy photos that we just saw, there is no way that truck hit him alone, and that was it. There's no way. There's no way. Now, as much as I believe that Karen Reed talked too much, and she got some ways about her that's just like so crazy. It doesn't mean that she did anything. It doesn't mean that she did it. So we have to decipher and figure out what is what, right? But this here is crazy. It's not about fighting for John anymore. I'm starting to fight more for myself instead of John. You know, because when you look at her talk about the John relationship, she talks about it as if it was just a dating relationship for 2 years. They were just kicking it for 2 years. And you might listen. There are times where you had that one person you've been on it for a nice period of time, and then all of a sudden, boom. Y'all kick it, and y'all saw y'all do was kick it. You know what I'm saying? But you was doing more than kicking it. You was around his kids. Turtle Boy is someone who has been covering this case, and he's been speaking out the most about Karen Reed, freeing Karen Reed. He's been out in front of the courthouse with bullhorns and all kind of stuff, and he's been accused of having something going on with David Yannetti, who was one of the defense attorneys for Karen Reed, and apparently there's some type of client privilege information that the state wants to utilize in their case of chief for some reason, and I believe the judge was like, nah, you can't do that. But yeah, Turtle Boy is a heavy Karen Reed supporter for sure. This is my first live. I'm going to be doing more lives about this. This is crazy. I'm like, I've been taking my time for the last week and a half, I believe, taking my time to get this case down, to ingest it down into my body, because I got to do more lives on this. And I really, my desire is to really like show the case trial real time. I want to do that. Like, this is absolutely crazy. Yep, he has his own case for witness intimidation. Absolutely. Yep. Here we go.
At the hospital, Karen Reed's blood alcohol level was tested. I think for the prosecution, proving that she had been drinking is critical for the charges she's facing.
I'm just showing you a document as far as some medical records in relation to a patient named Karen Reed that visited the Good Samaritan on January 29th, 2022. Is that correct?
Correct.
You see a record in regard to a lab results for alcohol testing with regard to Ms. Reed.
Yes.
And what is it reported as, sir?
It is reported at 93 milligrams per deciliter.
According to the police reports, it says that Karen didn't even remember if she was at 34 Fairview Road the night before. And according to them, was disoriented and having a hard time putting the pieces of the night together. And so they did what's called this retrograde analysis, where they took Karen's blood alcohol level the next morning in the emergency room and say, okay, if she's had this much alcohol in her blood at 9 a.m, this is what we believe she could have had, at 12:30 or when they believe John O'Keefe was killed. And it was well above the legal limit.
This is the retro.
Absolutely. Look, real talk. They were all on 10. They was all on 10, especially O'Keefe. Now, she was the driver. O'Keefe rode with her to 34 Fairview. She was the driver. But dog, to be that you can't, not as indefensible.
O'Keefe was killed, and it was well above the legal limit.
This is the retrograde extrapolation report that I did for the subject of Karen Reed.
What, if any, result did you get from your mathematical calculations in regard to that?
The result was a 0.292 gram percent at 12:45.
That'd be 12:45 a.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you're using
Karen has not denied that she was drinking that night. She's not stumbling. She appears to be in control of herself. And so, I think this is another area where I think the prosecution has problems.
I know I wasn't driving recklessly. I mean, I've got plenty of video of myself driving all over the place. I did put my car in John's garage, which is incredibly narrow, and I had a very oversized SUV. It's not lost on me This wouldn't have happened if I wasn't out that night. This wouldn't have happened if I didn't go to 34 Fairview, and it wouldn't have happened if I went out for dinner with John and like had a glass of wine. So I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I didn't start out the night at the right place either and doing the right thing. And I feel terrible about that, but I was not driving recklessly by any measure. Reading through all these reports from the EMTs and the medical examiner, what I've learned is that when you find someone who appears to be a victim of hypothermia, you can't pronounce them dead until you try to warm the body to get the core temp back. So when they found him on the lawn, his body temp was like 80.1 degrees, but they wanted to see if they could warm him and try to defibrillate him and see if that would make a difference, and it didn't. So once they stopped resuscitation efforts, they pronounced him dead at 7:59, but he never actually registered any kind of heartbeat. He was in cardiac arrest. He was dead when they got to him at 6:08.
So one of the mysteries that still remains about this case is missing ring videos from John O'Keefe's home.
There's ring camera video from like 11:30 the night before, on the 28th, when Michael Camerano comes to the house to pick up his daughter. And there's ring camera video the next time at 5:07 a.m. when Karen Reed is leaving. If you do natural math, there's a point in time when Karen Reed comes home and puts her car in the garage in between those two time periods, but there's no ring camera footage of that.
We know the ring video had to be deleted because at 12:41, I leave a voicemail to John where you can clearly hear me pull into John's garage. You can hear my car sensors beeping as I come close to the sides of the garage door. Beep, 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 beep. And then you hear the car go off, and then you hear the sled ding, ding, ding as I open the door, shut the door. I had high heels on that night. You hear me walk in, go in through the stairs up into the kitchen, shut the door, and you hear me walk into the kitchen. It's like a full minute long. That's at 12:41. But the ring video of me arriving home is mysteriously missing. The prosecution is accusing me of deleting the ring, and we're accusing them.
The O'Keefe family believes that when they did this was when Karen got home from the hospital with her dad.
There was certainly some evidence in this trial that Karen Reed got home and had gone up to John O'Keefe's bedroom.
And if you know, about how long were they in the upstairs area of the house?
I would say 10 to 15 minutes.
Karen Reed had access to the computer in the bedroom, so there's a possibility or an inference that she could have deleted ring footage that she didn't believe was favorable to her.
So this would have been the time that Ms. Reed, the defendant, arrived with her family from the hospital as well?
Correct.
Why am I deleting these videos? If anything, I mean, I want the video when I arrive home to show that my taillight's intact. I don't know that it would have captured it, but it could have. They wouldn't want that video in because it would show my taillight's intact. So who has a greater incentive to delete the video?
So this brings us to Officer Barros. Officer Barros, I don't even really want to cross his name out because he was so amazing. He was a witness that we did not know was going to say what he said, but he ended up being just amazing. I mean, he was supposed to be relatively innocuous. He just showed up to support the Massachusetts State Police in the towing of Karen's car. What he ended up doing is coming to court and blowing a hole completely into the Commonwealth's case.
I received a phone call from the Norfolk District Attorney's Office with the troopers assigned there, and they had stated that they were going to come to Dighton to retrieve a vehicle that was involved in a homicide. The troopers just had asked me if I could meet them at that residence as a courtesy since they were coming into my jurisdiction.
Did you observe a vehicle in the driveway at any time?
Yes, we observed a black Lexus SUV in the driveway.
And what, if any, observations did you make to the rear area of that vehicle specifically?
I saw that there was some damage to the right rear taillight. To my best ability and recollection, that taillight was not completely damaged. It was cracked, and a piece was missing, but not completely damaged.
Okay, that's important. It was not completely damaged. And just looking at this, do you think a small piece of hair can stay on this vehicle for a long time? I mean, they're about to put it on a flatbed and drive this thing to where they need to check this out. And there's snow all over it. And you mean to tell me you were able to find, by chance, you was able to find a small piece of hair on the back of this truck? You stop playing with me.
Completely damaged. It was cracked, and a piece was missing, but not completely damaged.
Okay, cross-examination.
Good questions. Barros was absolutely a gift. He was very, very clear in his testimony that Karen's taillight that morning or that day was cracked, not completely damaged. So that was an incredibly important moment.
The right rear tail light had such large pieces missing from it.
And to have that statement sort of juxtaposed with Trooper Proctor testifying, not days later, but literally minutes later, when that was still fresh in the juror's mind, to a completely different description of what her taillight supposedly looked like that afternoon, I think was incredibly important for the jury to see.
I would love to go on the stand, and in lieu of that, I'm sitting here talking. I was adamant about taking the stand, and then the lawyers explained to me, if we're winning, which we expect to be, one of the last things the jurors are going to hear is Adam Lally cross of you, and he's going to try his best to jam you up. And do I want to get, what is he going to ask me? What is he going to confront me with? Am I not going to answer it perfectly? And is that the last thing we want jurors to hear? And that scared me a little bit. I'll do whatever. I defer to the lawyers. They want me to, or if they're 50-50, I don't know, I'll just defer to them. I'd like to, but I'll be okay if I don't.
Yeah, don't say nothing else.
John did leave the bar that night with a cocktail glass. He brought it in my car. And then when I dropped him off at Brian Albert's house, he took the cocktail.
Now, let's talk about this for 1 second. What wicked bar lets you leave with their cocktail glass in your hand outside the door? Where do they do this? Maybe Massachusetts is just a different place, but I know one thing: there is no way in the world you can leave with a little glass of anything and leave the bar. The Canton bars let you leave with their glasses in wicked Massachusetts and wicked Boston. What wicked bar owner lets you do this? Canton bars. I mean, this is absolutely insane.
Cocktail glass out and walked up. He just took it with him.
The cocktail glass was found near John's body.
Okay, that's a look at this. Look at this. He has a snowblower on a crime scene. I'm just so disgusted. He leaves with a cocktail. This is the important piece. He leaves with a cocktail glass. For some reason, they insist that these tail light, small bits of tail light was on this man. And just listen to this, because this is crazy.
Cocktail glass. He brought it in my car. And then when I dropped him off at Brian Albert's house, he took the cocktail glass out and walked up. He just took it with him.
The cocktail glass was found near John's body.
I was removing the snow layer by layer. And right here, you can see it exposing a broken clear cocktail glass.
The cocktail glass was the very first piece of physical evidence presented in the trial.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that the witness be allowed to take it out of the bag and display it to the jury.
Okay.
How it got broken at the scene, whether it got broken in the house and was put outside, or he dropped it. I mean, we don't know.
We know that we have a damaged drinking glass at the scene in the vicinity of the fragments of the taillight. So the theory that Dr. Rentschler and I put forward is potentially an individual threw this drinking glass at the back of the Lexus, causing the taillight to fracture. So myself and one of our lab technicians at ARCA, we designed and developed a pressurized air cannon. So it was capable of firing a projectile such as a drinking glass at the taillight.
They fired a cocktail glass out of a cannon at various miles an hour to determine how fast one would have to throw a cocktail glass to break Karen Reed's taillight. And they ended up coming up with 37 miles an hour. But the state had never presented a theory that John had maybe thrown a glass at the car in anger, and neither had the defense. So when those ARCA experts testified about this John throwing the glass theory, that was the first time anybody in that courtroom had heard it.
It doesn't make sense because the cocktail glass was found near John. If he had thrown the glass, it would have been found somewhere completely else, far away from him. So I think physics would suggest that the glass was in his hand and broke as a result of the collision.
What do y'all think about that? Ain't that crazy? Now these experts kind of like reinvented or went over all possibilities of what could have happened in this particular case with John being outside with that glass. There is also the autopsy shows that also that there was a piece of glass stuck in his nose. And Karen Reed, I don't know why she did this, but she talked about how she removed it from his face when she saw him in the snow. A Body in the Snow. If you want to watch it, you can watch it on Max if you got Max, or you can watch it probably on here on YouTube as well. But Max it's definitely binge worthy for sure. I don't recommend anybody. I don't recommend anybody doing a documentary while they're on a trial. But you know, whatever. It is what it is. Some people just can't help it. She said Karen is killing her. Okay, that's the reason why when you watch the whole thing, you will see why there is some good points about doing this and why it's bad. And this is why I said it was the documentary. First of all, I love documentaries, so it was a good documentary. Period. I'm like a fan of it. Okay, it's a good documentary, but it ain't good for her. I just don't think it's some stuff in this documentary that she says that I don't think she needs to say. Like removing glass from a person's face is not good. Did they put that glass in the stop and go brown paper bag? I don't think they did. I don't think they did. I know they put those red cups in there in a brown paper bag. I think they did though. I think they probably did do that. Actually, they need to remove her tongue. They need to remove absolutely. So said him drinking, then throw the glass at the car, stop it. Like I don't know. Like throw the glass at the car for what? Why would he throw? Why is he throwing a glass at her car in the first place? Like all of that needs to be explained. So, but to say that when you approached him, because Karen came back to the scene and she approached the fact that she found John was out there, and all of a sudden he had a glass in his face, in his nose area, and she said that she removed it. Yes, it was a cut to his nose. That cut to his nose came from the glass. The glass was stuck there. I went back to the autopsy real quick to make sure I got my facts right. And yes, so that's where the piece of glass was. No, there is nothing in here that says that he had any type of red, like a red piece of glass or red plastic, anything that came to his face. If he got hit in the face by this truck only, which caused this to be a trial for some strange reason, but at the end of the day, there is nothing in this autopsy report that states or even hints at the idea that this was caused by a hit to the head to a vehicle by a taillight. There's no taillight residue on this man's injury report or his autopsy. There is absolutely nothing in the autopsy that shows that a vehicle did this. Nothing. There is absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a link to. I'm gonna share the link of the autopsy. If you want to deep dive and look at the photos some more or whatever the case may be, or use this as your guide for investigating this case yourself, by all means do so. There's also a part of this autopsy where it gives more detail. All right, there's some other details in here as well. But the injuries, I agree with you, Sheely. His injuries look like a fight. They don't look like a car hit at all. A 2-inch laceration in the back of your head, bro. That's what a vehicle did. A vehicle hit you in the back of your head. Stop it. And then there's no type of impact causing death either, as far as like the manner of death. It's undetermined. So even she couldn't even determine what the manner of death was. Like she couldn't say, well, he died from the manner of death was the fact that it was a vehicle that hit him. That's a manner of death. Manner of death that shows that he was hit by a hammer, and then they found a hammer on the scene. Like that's a manner of death. Cause of death: hypothermia, hemorrhaging. So getting hit by a vehicle can cause you. I mean, if you was in a car accident, you was in a car accident, but that's not the case. That's not the case here. So everybody is questioning the fact that this is a retrial in the first place. There was something interesting that happened where the jury did not. There was something that went on where the jury did not get polled or something of that nature, which would make it more sensible to have to not have a retrial. Because if they were, that means that this mistrial would just be it. But for some reason, the jury, they never got it down in paper that this mistrial was a thing based upon a certain thing by the jury. If you look at the trial of Karen Reed, you will get to the point where the judge announces the mistrial. You will also see this in the documentary where they're deliberating, but they're hung on one particular charge. Now, Karen Reed is facing 3 charges: 2nd-degree murder. She's also facing manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence and leaving the scene of a collision causing death, stemming from the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, in January of 2022. 2nd-degree murder. This charge suggests that Reed intended to kill or unalive, O'Keefe, or knew that her actions could result in his death. Manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence. This charge alleges that Reed recklessly caused O'Keefe's death while driving under the influence. The third charge, wicked charge, leaving the scene of a collision causing death. This charge relates to Reed allegedly leaving the scene after allegedly striking O'Keefe, which means she had to have known that she hit him in the first place. I believe that is the charge that the jury will hung upon. So they're hung on that particular charge because the 2nd-degree murder and the manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the death, I believe those were not guilty. So leaving the scene of a collision causing death is where they got hung, and this is what caused the mistrial. They deliberated for hours, court hours. They deliberated for a long time, and the head juror or the lead juror said, "Listen, we are not trying to waste the court's time. We are not trying to do any of that, but we cannot come to an agreement on this charge." Now, there you go. The judge didn't ask the jury. They were not guilty on 2 of the 3 charges. Judge did not ask the jury at all. Which charge was it? So come to find out, it was the 2nd-degree murder and the manslaughter while operating a vehicle under the influence. There is a court. There is the Karen Reed's lawyers are now have submitted to the Supreme Court to have this not to be a retrial, and also because you had 2 charges that were already found not guilty unanimously, Why are those two charges coming back to this trial anyway? The first trial showed that they're not guilty. Now, if you want us to come back because we want to face the leaving the scene of a collision causing death charge, well, if you want to come back with that, that's fine. We don't want to do this, but we will. However, all the other charges are gone. The jury said, Now we're in jury selection, and there's about to be a whole new jury. And there is a questionnaire. There's a questionnaire that, hold on, let me see. I believe I'll be able to do this. Because one of the things that's real crazy is the fact that for some reason, it's almost like they have it out for this chick. And why? I'm not really sure why. I don't understand why at all. I don't understand why at all. You can plainly see that her vehicle did not do anything. See here, let me get this uploaded real quick. I just thought about this. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. So I want to go ahead and take a look at these, all right? Because these are very interesting. This questionnaire is like, it's one of those questionnaires that's like, what? It's more like it's like, well, did you hear about this? And did you hear about that? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those, man. Let's see here. Let's go on ahead and get into this real quick. Remove this for a second. So, 3. All right. So I think, is this the first page? Yes, this is the first page. All right, this is the first page. So, this is what the questionnaire looks like. All right, and they're asking questions like, one of the questions they're asking, like question number 2, they're asking, have you already started to make up your mind about this case? Is it alleged that on January 29, 2022, while intoxicated and opening her motor vehicle in Canton, the defendant Karen Reed unalived her boyfriend John O'Keefe, an off-duty Boston police officer? Is there anything about the description of the case, the charges, or the victim was an off-duty police officer that causes you to believe that you cannot be fair and impartial in this case? Have you already started to make up your mind about this case? Do you have an opinion, or do you have opinions regarding previous experiences as a juror? Do you have any religion or philosophical beliefs that may come to that would make it difficult for you to follow the law and come to a verdict in this case? Do you have any family members or close friends reside in or conduct regular business in Canton, Massachusetts? Let's see. Do you believe law enforcement? Have you or someone close to you ever had education, training, or work experience in any of the following fields: law enforcement, military, alcohol/drug abuse, domestic violence? I mean, this is crazy. This is insane. Do you have any strong personal beliefs? Things of that nature. I know one of them is like, have you heard of this case before? Do you believe Karen Reed should have to prove her innocence? Why would you ask that? Why would you ask that? Wow, how does Karen Reed does not have to prove her innocence? She has nothing. This is a Commonwealth versus Karen Reed case. Karen Reed does not have to prove her innocence. You have to prove that she's guilty. And we combat that. Proven innocence, how? No. We're based on what the prosecution comes up with. Based on what the prosecution come up with is what determines how the defendant will respond. But you're the case in chief. You're the case in chief in this. So they have to prove that she's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Shout out to Cat Now Williams in the building. What up, dog? She said, oh my God, I'm late. So this is some other stuff too here that they have on here. Let's see. Have you or any family members or close friends been involved in a domestic violence relationship that featured physical, mental, and or verbal abuse? I mean, because that can also, again, if you look at this from a juror perspective, you can have a situation where it's like, okay, I'm biased towards this particular type of case because I've been involved in the same or similar situations before. During trial, you will hear testimony about medical treatment, death, and review graphic autopsy photographs. Will that affect your ability to participate and be a fair and impartial juror? I mean, she basically asking you, don't have any emotional attachment to this case. Again, this is a very high level, this is a very high emotional case, especially in Boston, right? It's really high level emotion there. Ken Williams said you have to ask that stuff so you can strike jurors that just have awful approaches. That's true. That is true. Because they do, you know what, that's facts. Because they do have, there are some people that's like, okay, there are some people that really can't detach. Like I remember I had to go to jury duty and they was trying to select a jury for a case where a man had did something to some kids. And oh my God, you mean to tell me? I mean, folks was like, the first question they asked, like, do you have any bias towards, everybody like, yes. Thank God I did not have to be on the jury. Thank God. I was in the last group. I was in the last group, so they didn't have to choose me. I was there. They already had their 12 jurors. I was like, thank God. But when it comes to certain things, there are people, it's going to be hard to detach. And and that's fine. But that is a good process to take. So that way a person can say, you know what, let's strike. I'm gonna strike this juror out because they can't be impartial and things of that nature. Do you have any concerns about your personal privacy due to the presence of video cameras in the courtroom and or the high publicized nature of the case? There are some people that's like, yo, I don't want my family, I don't want my job, I don't want nobody knowing about this, I don't want nobody to know that it's about this particular case, nothing, And some people do not like being in the spotlight like that, I can't. Karen Reed obviously does, as we could see in this documentary she did there, where she talked 4 times outside her head. But there are some people that's like, I don't want to be involved or associated with this case at all. I'd rather just have my opinion about this case at the crib. I don't even want to deal with it, and that's fine. Some people like to live that life, like to live privately, and that's fine. Do you have any knowledge of this case gained from any source? And if you say yes, acknowledge the source. You might as well say all of these. Who has not heard of this case, right? And so a lot of people who may not have heard of the case are people who just don't live there. People who don't live there like that, or they're not involved in the community of that, like that. They don't know. But people who actually live there in Boston, Canton, okay, who go to the bars, Wicked Smart, right? Those cats, they know. They see it everywhere. It's on the news all day, every day in Boston. Boston news every single day talk about the Karen Reed trial every single day. So she's like, okay, did you have any knowledge of this case before? Any source? Television, radio, newspaper, magazine, internet, Twitter, X, social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, podcast, family, friends, observations in the community, over anything. These are questions that you got to ask. Now, does that mean that a person who heard of this case before can still give a non-biased perspective? I don't know. You know what I mean? Don't look too good. You feel what I'm saying? So this is all reasonable stuff. But those questions are kind of crazy. I didn't want to deep dive into those too much. But it's interesting how the judge did not ask the jury about anything. And so she just called it a mistrial and kept it pushing. And now it's a retrial, and all of a sudden, we're in this thing. But this is a video that occurred not too long ago. However, there's a gentleman on this video, and I want to talk about this video too a little bit, because it talks about why this is even a retrial in the first place. And we do know that the attorneys for Karen Reed they want the Supreme Court to step in and to get this trial completely done. The first trial, and this is for Shi Lee, the first trial, the judge, the defense wanted the judge to recuse herself. She pulled a Glanville. She pulled a pituitary Glanville and was like, nah, we doing this. We are doing this. All right. Ain't no recusals over here. My boy Glanville put me on. He taught me to do my own thing, to judge myself. I'm not leaving this up to other judges to judge for. No. I'm not going through that process. I have the power. I have the power. I channeled my inner pituitary Glanville, and I was able to not recuse myself because I'm the judge. I can do what I want to do. This Judge Canoni has been on everybody's radar. Okay. And even her demeanor about this whole thing, it's like she talked out the side of her head so many times too. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Was the judge by? It seems like it now, especially. I know some experts that the defense want to come in and testify about, some forensic experts, some experts about how to handle a case or how to handle a homicide scene, they can't get those witnesses for some reason. But the Commonwealth is they can get a bunch of people on their side to be a witness, to testify, experts and things of that nature. I just find it very interesting. I don't find this to be all the way on the fair end. However, it's fair to an extent to me. I'll say it that way. To an extent, this is a fair retrial, but based on what the defense needs. Now, I don't see why them wanting to bring in their own expert about how to operate a crime scene the right way is a problem. So, this is very, very crazy. But let's take a look at this video real quick. And there's a gentleman that they're going to talk about this whole retrial thing.
The jury could not decide on all of the charges, whether Karen Reed was a heartless killer or a hapless scapegoat. But in 4 short days, despite the defense's best efforts to get the case dismissed, a new jury will be picked to hear the exact same evidence. That is not to say that nothing is different from the first trial, or should I say mistrial. For starters, the lead investigator in the case is out of a job. Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor was fired, quote, dishonorably discharged, end quote. And that just happened last week.
He was
dumped for having sent crude and misogynistic text messages about the subject that he was investigating, Karen Reed. And he did it during the investigation. Oh, and also he was found to have shared confidential details of the case with unauthorized people. Oh, and also they discovered he'd been drinking on duty and driving.
I mean, you a cop, bruh. That wasn't wicked smart. That wasn't wicked smart.
his police cruiser after drinking on duty. So he's on the outs. Another key difference from last time, the people who may be called for jury duty next week are far more likely this time round to have heard Karen Reed's version of what happened the night her boyfriend died. And that is because Karen Reed herself opened up and told her entire story to Investigation Discovery. Even though she didn't take a witness stand in her last trial, she's talking now in a docuseries that just dropped called A Body in the Snow. And yes, here's a look.
Karen Reed is accused of hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV and leaving him to die in the snow.
Their relationship was not a happy one.
Not a single witness actually saw this happen.
There's a whole other side of the story.
This is funny, Ms. Reed.
They've got her guilty already. So, did you drive your car into John?
Doing this film is my testimony. I want to say what happened exactly as it happened. John was a Boston police officer. We went to a bar with a bunch of cops. Jen McCabe invited us to the Alberts. Last I ever talked to him when he got out of my car at Brian Albert's house.
Everybody liked Karen, and everything changed.
He was found dead on the lawn of another police officer.
This is one of their own, and that raises the stakes.
Miss Reed stated that she hit him 3 times. I hit him. I hit him.
I hit it. That statement doesn't appear on any of the tapes.
They were shocked.
I am not on trial. I am a witness.
It's impossible to have any sympathy. They're all lying.
She'd smile or laugh.
She's posing for pictures.
Her behavior, in conjunction with the hard evidence, points in one direction.
DNA evidence placed parts of John on Karen's car.
Feels like I'm in a bad dream. This can't.
I mean, how did you find that piece of hair on that car?
Be real.
She was angry. She had been drinking.
How many calls? There was over 50.
What did you text about going through Karen Reed's phone?
No news so far.
There were gasps.
One of the most uncomfortable moments of this entire trial.
Shame on you, sir.
Elle magazine wants to feature me.
She was the happiest murder defendant in America.
You're either pro Karen Reed or you are pro police.
It's become a civil war.
This justice system will never be the same after this.
I can't believe what's happening to me.
Yeah, it is good. And that brings me to the third and most jaw-dropping change from the first Karen Reed trial. Her defense team has a brand new member this week, an attorney who literally had a front row seat for Karen's first trial, because that attorney was actually a juror and sat on the panel in Karen Reed's first trial. Did you get all that? Crazy. Her name is Victoria George. She was an alternate juror. So because of that, she didn't deliberate with the others. But still, she says what she saw and heard during Karen's first trial shook her faith in the system. And now she says she wants to help prevent what she calls a miscarriage of justice. And so now I turn, as I often do when my head is spinning, to my friend Mark Garagos, criminal defense attorney and co-host of 2 hit podcasts, Reasonable Doubt and 2 Angry Men. Okay, happy Friday, Mark Garagos. More than 6 million people have seen that docuseries. And I can't help but think if it hurts her. Do you think it helps her?
Hold on one second, guys. There's a question on the floor. How was that even allowed? Are you referring to the juror being able to be a part of the defense team? Because she never deliberated at all. So she was an alternate juror, but there was no deliberation. So by that metric, she's able to be a part of the defense team. So that's the reason why there was no deliberation on her part at all. The people who deliberated this whole thing, she was not one of those.
And I can't help but think if it hurts her. Do you think it helps her, or do you think she did a disservice to herself by sitting for the doc?
No, I think it actually helps her, or it will help her. I think plenty of people have seen it. I think your setup piece was accurate in that it's polarizing in a lot of ways. But I also think that in a lot of ways, I don't understand how they're retrying this case. So it's strange to me. There's a lot of strange things. I love the fact that Alan Jackson has added an alternate juror to his defense team. I have hired both jurors after the fact and on more than one occasion. I have never added a juror onto the defense team a second time around. I've just hired them the second time around.
I totally get that part, right? If you're lucky enough to have a juror who will make him or herself public and then join the team. But man, oh man, I have never heard of a lawyer who has sat on a panel and then joined a second trial. Is it ethical? Is that juror I mean, I'm assuming she's allowed to do it because she's on the team. But
right.
I mean, I suppose the question I have is like, it's got to come up in voir dire, right? Like this has all got to come up in voir dire for people sitting on the panel. Did you see the documentary? And what about this lawyer?
Well, I don't know. I was contemplating the ethics of it. I can't think of. I suppose you might have some head scratching if it had been a juror who was deliberating, but I'm not so sure about that. I can't think of a better focus group, so to speak, than a lawyer who is an alternate who then is going to be able to give the perspective of what happened in the first trial. So to that extent, I embrace it, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense. Remember, this is one of those circumstantial evidence whodunit cases that captivates people. I always say that these kinds of cases are the ones where they become polarizing, they become things where people want to do the investigation, and it's interesting to have lawyers on those kinds of cases. I mean, I think back to Scott Peterson, the foreperson of Scott Peterson's case before he was removed over our objections was a lawyer who was also a doctor. And he had a lot of questions about that circumstantial evidence case. And we wanted people who were rational, who were not going to be swayed by emotion. And so a lot of times in circumstantial evidence cases, you want lawyers on your jury. And I'm sure having that added perspective of having sat through this case once is invaluable. So I think it's a master stroke.
I also hear engineers, because engineers like to connect things. They don't like chasms that they have to leap over. In their work, they connect. But let me ask you this. Trooper Michael Proctor was the lead investigator in Karen's case. And when he took the stand in that first murder trial, it was catastrophic. All this ugliness was coming out about him, going through her pictures on her phone and texting awful, nasty things about her private parts.
I believe that really
he's
hurt
gone, right? He's been fired. But that doesn't mean that he won't be called as a witness, right? I just wonder if it's worth it to the state to do that, knowing the blistering cross-examination that would come next and what the jury would think of him.
Well, I'm not so sure that this time around he would actually testify. I think if called, depending on who calls, he may just invoke the fifth. I've had that. Once again, I always tell war stories, but I remember Judge Schnegg, when she was on the bench in LA Superior Court, I actually got a cop on the stand to invoke the fifth, and to quote her, that's a turd in the punch bowl. And that is potentially what you might have in a case like this. This guy's got some exposure. Part of what the evidence seems to suggest is that he had some culpability either before, during, or after. And I'm not making the accusation. I'm just kind of reiterating what the evidence tended to suggest. Not the least of which is, I think you described him as misogynistic. He's kind of just an a-hole.
Well, that's one way to put it, yeah. So let me ask you this. Does the defense call him? That sounds crazy, but does the defense call him and say, let's have your texts, sir? Because really, I think where the defense is strongest is trying to point to some kind of conspiracy among cops and a big blue wall of silence and people who are out to get her. It ain't like we haven't seen this in this jurisdiction before. The Canton Police Department is embroiled in the Sandra Birchmore catastrophe as well. A young girl who they said took her own life. She didn't. And the 6 cops there went along with it. And one of them had impregnated her. And so he's up on charges now. So I know you can't bring all that into her case, but you could certainly dabble in that if you called Trooper Proctor, right?
Well, by the way, I can't think of a reason not to call him if you're the defense. The integrity of the investigation is always an issue. Here you have, so basically, my client didn't do it, is what Alan is going to argue. And if you believe that the cops set it up, here is Exhibit A, B, and C all rolled into one. So absolutely. I just don't know if they are actually going to get this person to testify, because if he's got a lawyer who's got some neurons firing, he's going to probably invoke.
Wait a minute. Yo, Canton, Massachusetts is on 10, cuz. Canton, Massachusetts. Wicked Canton on 10. Yo, man. I didn't even know that even happened there. And see, again, this is what I'm talking about, though, man. Is the corruption is so prevalent. And this is the reason why taxpayer dollars need to be scrutinized to the T. It needs to be audited all the time, because why am I paying? Why are you I'm not paying. Why are you taking taxes from me to fund this corrupt police department when they're not doing right by the people? When they're not doing right by the community, they're not doing right by the state, by the law that they have made an oath to. You want to take my taxes out my check, in my city tax, my state tax. You want to take all this stuff out my check and support these particular organizations. But when it's time to really put that rubber to the road, the corruption seems to seep its ugly head every single time. Every single time. Super corrupt, man.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I'm still surprised the case is going forward, not for the reason that you mentioned off the bat, which is why are they retrying her? They literally had a jury panel that had decided she didn't murder. It's just that they didn't pull the jury and get it on the record. So here we go again. But that's under appeal still. And if by any chance that appellate action is successful, what happens with the process we're going into next week?
Well, if it was successful, you can raise once in jeopardy at any time. And that's what the argument is. The argument is they can't go forward on the greater charge because she was found not guilty in order to get to the lesser charge, which they hung on. If that's the case, I still am perplexed, and I've never talked to Alan about it as to why the jury was not, why they did not inquire as to the verdict. In order to hang, so people understand, you go down like rungs of a ladder. In order to get to the count that they hung on, you had to acquit on the higher count or the greater count. Why the judge didn't on her own sua sponte, I'll invoke a little Latin on Friday night, or at the request of the defense or the prosecution, poll the jury about that, I don't understand. Maybe I'm not.
Oh, you don't have to understand. Let me help you out, your Mr. Lawyer Man. It's called bias. It's called being bought by the system. Yeah, you're in cahoots. Yeah, you're in cahoots. She ain't nothing but a Glanville. She ain't nothing but a Glanville. Lying all the time. You ain't nothing but a Glanville. Lying all the time. You ain't nothing but a Glanville. Lying all the time. You ain't nothing but a Glanville. Lying all the time. She ain't nothing but a Glanville. Come on, I don't understand why. You ain't gotta understand, sir. Let me get this to you in regular people terms. All right. She is wicked. She's a wicked liar. She's not wicked smart. She ain't nothing but a Glanville. Crying all the time. She ain't nothing but a Glanville. Lying all the time. That's all she is. That's all she is. She's Glanville with a wig. That's it. The biases of this woman is ridiculous. We know what it is. We done seen it plenty of times, people. We done seen this plenty of times. We have seen this over and over and over again. The judge is in cahoots with the state. They not fair. It is what it is, man. That's what they do. That's what they do. And the immunity of prosecutors is insane. They can do all this prosecutorial misconduct all they want, and they don't have to pay no price. They don't get disbarred. And if something happens to them, it's not made public. She called me TayBiz Presley. TayBiz Presley. TayBiz Presley is hilarious. Listen to me, man. Kanoni is Glanville in a wig, all right? Facts. I have been watching the reason why I haven't really been going over like this jury selection piece is because it's kind of like boring. It's kind of like redundant. So it's not a reason to really go over this. It's nothing to really do or to expose or anything like that. But even the fact that she don't want certain things from the defense to come in But those same things that the Commonwealth want, she makes up a reason to go with it. And it's like, wait a minute, I don't understand that. This is one of the reasons why it's good to understand and know not just your rights as a person, but understand how that system works. There is an odor of mendacity in the Karen Reed case. There is an odor. I smell it. There's an odor of mendacity in this Karen Reed case. And I see it. I can't wait for this trial, like the actual opening statement. I can't wait for this to start. I can't wait for this to start. I am definitely going to be covering this for sure. This is one of these cases. I still got my ear to the ground on Mickey Steins now. Trust me. It's just not a lot brewing right now. They're still gathering evidence and still trying to figure some things out and blah, blah, blah. Right. We all know that he's about to plead insanity, which is, that's another thing that we talked about. It is, whatever. But I can't wait because I want to see how this turns out. I want to know I want to know what the Supreme Court is going to do about these charges. Okay. Like you're retrying the case because you didn't do your due diligence, Judge. You didn't even sua sponte. So at the end of the day, you didn't even sua sponte the jury to see what the jury had going on or what the reasons were, or get these things in control, get these things documented, the actual hanging of the jury. Like you didn't even try to do anything. You're like, okay, it's a mistrial, whatever. Okay, let's go. We get home, and then you're going. Sheely said, Glanville, Fani, Love, Abati, and Hilton, they should all move to Boston because that's where you can do all your dirt. You can do all your dirt right there in Boston.
In the weeds enough, but that has always perplexed me.
Always. Poll the jury. I mean, I am not a lawyer, and I know that's Rule 101 at the end. You've got to poll the jury, even if it's a mistrial. If it's if you get a guilty, you've got to poll the jury. Sometimes someone stands up and says, I feel awful about this. I was pushed into doing this. Yeah, I'm shocked they didn't. But I do understand that the form is weird, and they may actually be changing it in this jurisdiction. It's that you can only check the box if it's guilty. If it's not guilty, you move past the box, and therefore it looked as though it just hadn't been deliberated, but you're right. They did deliberate it. They said they got there, and they said, we didn't find her guilty of murder.
And that was not the only time in that trial that Alan Jackson raised some issue, and they kind of scratched their heads there and say, well, their answer was one of my favorite answers. We've always done it this way. They couldn't explain it, but they just default to we've always done it this way. And that's one of the reasons I like going into other jurisdictions to try cases, because it gives you a perspective. You get kind of, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak.
I love the fact that you spent Friday night with me. Mark Garagos, thank you for this. I appreciate it.
Always, always, Ashley. Have a great weekend.
Okay. Next Friday. I'll see you here.
See you then.
All right. So we do have another video we're gonna go over real quick before we go for the night. But if y'all are enjoying this live, please go ahead and put another fire emoji in the chat real quick. Tracy Talk said, this Boston accent is sending me. This Boston accent is sending me. Boston, all right? Wicked smart. She was wicked hot. Yeah, man. This is why we having a retrial right now. We having a retrial because the judge did not do what she knows she was supposed to do. What is that telling you? What is that telling you? Now, let me ask a question real quick to the chat. Do y'all think Karen Reed is probably leaning towards sociopathic behaviors? I just want to know what you're thinking. because one of the things that I noticed, it's a strong possibility, right? It's a strong possibility that she have a little bit of a sociopathic behavior. I'm not saying she is a sociopath. I'm just saying I think that because, and I'm asking this because I've seen like I saw the whole documentary. I saw the whole documentary. I guess I should ask this question if everyone have seen the whole documentary, because it's her testimony, right? That's what she said. I'm not calling her one. I'm talking about she's displaying certain behaviors of one, like not being able to regard feelings, ignoring the feelings of others, where I seem like I can't connect anymore with this particular feeling. So I just drop it off and I just start focusing on myself. And it's just a small sense of it. And I'm saying, if you see this whole documentary, when you see this whole documentary, if you haven't seen it, it's like there is a level of, there's a thing. And I also thought about it this way. It's hard to connect your feelings to something when you're being wrongly accused. It's like now you can't go after that human experience of feeling something. Not, you have to defend yourself on a constant, which can cause a person to not be able to connect to what they normally would be able to connect to. I hope I'm making some sense here. Because if you are normally the life of the party, and then you get into a situation where you get accused of something that you know is not even in your character to do, it's hard to go back to that life of the party energy, because you're so focused on making sure that you don't leave them. Like, I thought you guys knew me. I thought you guys understood me. And I think that with a man having daughters and a man having children and allowing a woman to come in this life of his, you know, she had to have displayed some type of affection that was worthy of him allowing her to be around his daughters. But now that she's being wrongly accused and hurt, allegedly, for her, now she's like, I got to turn it off and just focus on not fighting for John's justice, but now fighting for my own. And that's what I'm talking. This is exactly what I mean. She's overwhelmed and have a disconnect right now. It's like right now you can't really find that empathy about him to her, from her, because of this. However, okay, during the time where she was dating John O'Keefe, she was having flirtatious conversations with Brian Higgins, the ATF agent. Okay. She was displaying, and there was an argument. The argument was about the fact of the way he was raising his kids and certain things that she did that he didn't want his kids to adopt. And so one of those things was the fact that he was trying to be stern about something and saying no, that they can't do a certain thing. And then she comes in and be like, she's like the fun stepmom type person. And then he's like, okay, I need you to stop doing that because I'm not raising my daughters that way. Then she gets pissed off because he's checking her about the way she's interacting with his kids. And then there is an argument that happens the night of the day of his demise, there was an argument that took place earlier in that morning. Niece. But so the thing is, and I believe he did that. And so I think he did this because they were together for a long time. So I do believe that he vetted her to an extent about kids. I just think that it's hard to. She said, but Tay, that's how women operate to get kids to like them. And that's cool, but she had been with them for a long time. So the liking them part had already been established. That part had already been established. According to the timeline of this case, I'm talking about according to what we know as evidence. That whole thing is already been there. He's telling her like, yo, even though the kids like you and you do certain things to let them like you or whatever, this is not the way I'm trying to instill certain things in them. Can you kind of chill back on this? And all of a sudden it blew up into an argument. It blew up into an argument. And even in the text message that shows the argument, he was not disrespecting her. See, there's a lot of evidence in this case. He did not disrespect her not one time. He was requesting that she stop doing a certain thing. You know what I'm saying? And so I need you to not do that because I'm trying to instill in them something. And what you're doing is you're counteracting what I'm doing, and that's not good. That's not good. She internalizes that, make a whole argument about it, and then gets so pissed off. He's like, you know what? I just can't with you. Then next thing you know, another text message come in later on that morning, like, hey, are we still going out? I'm sorry, are we still going out or whatever? You know, so it seems like so there's been an energy in this relationship that has not been conducive for anything healthy. And so in the midst of all of this happening, she does text flirt with Brian Higgins, who's not really that fond of John O'Keefe anyway. So what I'm saying is the cases like this has a lot of loophole type of thing. Because again, one of the charges is manslaughter while operating a vehicle under the influence. And we know that manslaughter most of the time, if not all the time, has something to do with a passion, has something to do with a motive of doing something. The question was it voluntary or involuntary? That's different. We don't know, but it just says manslaughter. Yes, Higgins was there. You know, they were supposed to all come together. So he was there. He was there. He left the scene and threw his phone away and threw away the SIM card in different spots. I think he cut the SIM card in half too, or something like that, or split it or broke it in half or something. You know. So my thing is that is it possible that she had an idea of something happening? That's something that the prosecution could probably try to muster up. You know, who knows? But to say that she did all of this by herself is the biggest pot of craziness I've ever heard. There is nothing remotely linked to that man and that taillight. And so my thing is that Gotta be careful with how we operate. And see, this is another thing about relationships. In her mind, she texted him like, yo, because at first Brian Higgins was like, hey, are you playing with me right now? Like, are you messing with me right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, you texting me like, what's up? Like, I thought you and John had something going on. Me and John are just dating. We're not together. This is what Karen Reed is saying 2 years after she done been this man for 2 years. And she still see the relationship as a dating relationship. She don't see it as anything serious. You see what I'm saying? So this is the reason why Karen Reed needs to be quiet. It don't look good for you right now. It don't look good for you right now. You need to be quiet. You need to. You shouldn't have did this documentary. You need to hush, because now you vocally said on camera, "This is my testimony." Like, dude, they kissed at John's house. That's what I'm saying. That's the reason why I'm thinking. This is the reason why I'm thinking. There's a little bit of a sociopathic behavior. I'm not saying she is a sociopath. Hear me clearly. I'm not saying that. There are traits, small breadcrumbs of sociopathic behavior that she is displaying, especially when it comes to her relationship with John O'Keefe. She doesn't look at it as a real serious, intimate relationship, according to the evidence that has been included in this case. And herein lies the problem. Now you have a reputation. Now you have a bad name. Even though you may not have done anything, your name ain't good. So even Brian Higgins in the text message is like, what? He admits to the kiss and the whole nine on the stand. You're going to see that in the documentary as well. This is where the problem lies, is that the odor of mendacity is also on Karen Reed's side, because she was trying to play both dudes at the wrong time. So all of a sudden, now you're mad at John, and all of a sudden Brian Higgins started looking wicked hot. He was looking wicked smart. All because John made you mad about something that pertains to his personal life, that you say that you're not totally involved in as far as a relationship, a committed relationship. We were just dating. Just watch the documentary. I'm telling you, the documentary shows a side of her that's somewhat dark. And so if a person doesn't have the ability to be able to decipher that type of behavior versus actually committing an act, you're going to have a bad, it's going to be crazy. It's going to get crazy. The jury would be, if a person doesn't know how to dissect and detach that side of her to what happened to John, then you're going to get a muddy jury again. So Karen, that's why I'm saying Karen Reed, her attitude, her mentality is not good for a case like this, for her to talk. She needs to be quiet, as the most quiet as possible. If I'm Alan Jackson, who is the lead attorney or the lead defense attorney for Karen Reed, I'm advising her not to say nothing else to the press. Okay, even though the documentary is out, it came out after the fact, after the first trial. Now it's a retrial, and now that documentary is out there, and clearly it's out there as some type of evidence, some type of it. Yes, Karen is her own worst enemy. So that's what I'm saying. So you need to be quiet, dog. Please. But it's hard for her to be quiet because she has made a choice to no longer fight for John. We heard that. We heard her say that in that video. I'm no longer fighting for John. Now I'm fighting for myself. And this is what happens when you fight for yourself. You start losing it. You start saying things. And then Dateline News, you like, yeah, I felt a little oomph. I felt a little something. But then in your documentary, you like, this is my first time ever seeing the car. My first time ever seeing myself back out into this car and hitting it. Now you tell Dateline, yeah, but I felt something. See, the prosecution can use that. So at the end of the day, this was her doing this documentary while she was on trial. This was her version of a testimony. Then the documentary comes out in between of the mistrial and the start of April 1st. Now she's being retried. That's why the defense is like, okay, we need to go get the Supreme Court and appeal this because this is double jeopardy. Sometimes your silence is the greatest weapon that you need to use. That's all I'm gonna say. Let's go ahead and watch this. My boy Vinny Politan, right? My boy Vinny and his boy. We're gonna go ahead and check out this video real quick. And then we're gonna call it a night. Let's go. Appreciate everybody. First of all, I appreciate everybody rocking with your boy right now. It is 9:49 at night on the Eastern time. I appreciate everybody rocking with me and holding it down with me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
For the judge is still making rulings. I want to go back to that interview I did with one of the jurors who told me, I asked him, so what happened? I don't know what happened. He literally said, I don't know what happened. You know, he saw and heard all the evidence. He discussed it with fellow jurors. And at the end of the day, he came to the conclusion that he did not know what happened to John O'Keefe. Well, I made him a not guilty juror, but it raises another question. I mean, we had so much evidence, so much testimony and arguments made by both sides in this case. And a lot of those arguments were out here about things perhaps other than John O'Keefe, exactly what happened to him. For example, Trooper Proctor, a biased investigation. He was fired because of that biased investigation, but that came out in front of the jury. The fact that he wrote all these text messages, made his mind up, hated Karen Reed, believed she did it, and he ended up getting disciplined for all of it. As important as that is to figuring out what happened to John O'Keefe, the investigation itself is not about what happened to John O'Keefe. These were the people who were supposed to figure it out and then prove it. And they didn't get it done in the first trial. But to me, the issue of the investigation and the bias of the investigation is important, but it doesn't answer the question of exactly what happened to John O'Keefe. Then you had Karen Reed. She made alleged confessions. I hit him. Did I hit him or I hit him, right? So you had that evidence, which seems to be direct evidence of what happened to John O'Keefe, but that didn't convince all 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt. So then the issue became, well, did she actually confess or did she not confess? What did she actually say? And it became almost again it's an important issue, but it doesn't tell you what happened to John O'Keefe, because the issue is, did she actually confess? What did she actually say? Who really heard it? All of that was kind of tossed up in the air, sort of a sideshow. And all the witnesses, the eyewitnesses, the McCabe's, the Alberts, the other investigators, the videos, everything else, to me, didn't convince these jurors what happened. Which brings us to the experts. And I'm wondering, in all of this, is it up to the experts? John O'Keefe has certain injuries. He's found in a certain place. And the question is it up to the experts to prove one way or another, whether it's the defense or the prosecution, to prove what actually happened to John O'Keefe, because that's where the jury ended up. The jury was not talking about murder. The jury was not talking about motive. They dismissed that. Counts 1 and 3, leaving the scene of the accident, that was not in play. What was in play was, how did he die? Did her car actually hit him? And that wasn't resolved. But that's where they ended up, because they did not believe, the first jury, despite the way everything ended up, they did not believe that it was murder. They did not believe that she knowingly left the scene of an accident. So they're really down to, did she accidentally hit him or not?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think only the experts can prove. And it's going to be significant. It's going to be important. Do you remember who the expert was for the Commonwealth in the first case? He was a trooper, Trooper Joe Paul. Take a look.
So the vehicle was traveling in reverse.
And how fast was the vehicle traveling and over what distance?
The vehicle traveled up to 24 miles per hour and approximately 62 feet.
What, if anything, occurred then?
In the snow. Hey, bro. See, it already smells bad now. He's talking about 20. Do you know how fast you have to go? Reversing 24 miles an hour is fast. Then you're doing it in the snow, not just any snow, a blizzard, man. What? 24 miles an hour in snow. We talking about the snow is getting to levels of, it's about to hit 6 inches, 8 inches, a foot. Like, dude, what is that? And you did it under the influence. You was drunk. You was at 0.9 something she was on? Some crazy number, man. Like, this is what we're doing. Come on, man.
The right rear of the Lexus struck the pedestrian John O'Keefe.
And post-collision, what, if anything, occurred with regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
Mr. O'Keefe was projected forward and to the left along the front yard of 34th Ferry Road. So the taillight in this case was shattered when it was struck John O'Keefe's arm. Based on what I saw for his injuries was from the upper part of his arm down.
Okay, I was underwhelmed at the trial by Trooper Joe Paul, and he's probably a great guy and probably a great trooper, but this is beyond, and I said it at the time, this was beyond his expertise. Like, he can report facts about where he was found, the tail light, what it looked like, those sort of things, fine. Like, but to sort of extrapolate and come up with some sort of mathematical equation or something based upon what you've studied, like, that was not him.
No,
that was not him.
No.
So what is the prosecution going to do in the retrial? Well, they're going to up their game. And that is one advantage that they're going to have second time around that they didn't have first time around. I mean, that was not the correct expert to opine about what happened to John O'Keefe. Now they've got a guy, and he's been cleared by the judge now to testify, a doctor, that's important, Judson B. Welcher, okay? I don't think he's a medical doctor. He's a biomechanical engineer. He's an accident reconstructionist. He has a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Cal Poly. Like, this is the real deal. A Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering from USC. The one out in California. 28 years of experience in biomechanical engineering and accident reconstruction, specializing in trauma causation and prevention, human tolerance, restraint design, accident reconstruction, amusement park rider tolerances as well. He's qualified and has testified as an expert in over 200 trials. Now you see the difference between him and Trooper Joe Paul. Trooper Joe Paul, I'm sure he's a great trooper. I really don't, and he can go to the scene of an accident, in your run-of-the-mill sort of accident, and report on facts that he finds. But when you're putting together the pieces and trying to reconstruct what you believe happened, you need someone like this. So what's going to be the impact of this new? I'm going to call him like a super expert for the Commonwealth. Let's bring in our live think tank in studio tonight. Criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, and also down in Florida, by the way. Daryl Cohen is with us. Criminal defense attorney, law professor Meg Strickler, and criminal defense attorney, the man behind the glasses, Josh Schiffer.
Man, can I cross-examine Doc for a second?
Why?
Expert Doc?
You don't think he's an expert?
Oh, no, he is 100% an expert witness. And a good cross-examination is going to go deeply into the kind of work he performs.
What does he do?
Well, he testifies for plaintiffs' lawyers. And he's produced millions and millions of dollars in verdicts against businesses. And he's available to review all of your stuff. And if you're trying to go ambulance chase, he's the kind of guy that you want to hire 101 because you know that with his expertise, with that background, jurors love that stuff.
Well, let's not call them ambulance chasers because these are people who bring justice to people who are hurt and harmed.
You're telling me we do personal injury at my firm, and that's exactly why.
Don't call yourself an ambulance chaser. You're out there getting justice for people who've been hurt in car, bus accidents, etc.
I actually have Daryl chase the ambulances. I'm way too slow. He has very spry knees.
All right. Is this going to make a difference?
Absolutely. The state needs his testimony to be rock solid. The defense needs to destroy him as much as possible.
I think the Commonwealth has fallen into the trap that I've seen happen in California over and over again.
What is that?
Over trying the case. Oh. This is simple. The KISS method. Keep it short, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Did Karen Reed hit her ex-boyfriend? I think he did. I think the evidence shows that he did, if you believe that evidence. But did she do it intentionally? I don't believe so, because there was a snowstorm. And I think the Commonwealth has overcharged her, and they need to get it simple. Keep it simple. Very simple.
Well, the most simple thing they need to do to prove any of the charges here is to establish beyond a reasonable doubt that her SUV actually struck John O'Keefe. And as you know, the juror I interviewed, as well as several others, they weren't convinced.
And maybe this expert, we don't know, is very good at translating all the technical stuff into English. And if he's very good at speaking to the jury and the jury pool and just saying, look, this is the jury pool, I apologize, but the jurors, and saying, look, this is what happened, and let me explain it, kind of like Trooper Joe Paul did, but to augment that, and he's got the doctor behind him, then nobody's going to be able to cross him with any real merit.
Trooper Joe did the job that a trooper does, but he wasn't the expert that the Commonwealth needs, and this doctor is.
Right. I don't think that matters. I'm
going to tell you right now, Trooper Joe, when they cross-examined that man, I'm telling you, it was a blood scene. It was crazy. The defense did a cross-examination on this dude. He was so nervous. He was stumbling over his words. There was nothing about Trooper Joe that made the Commonwealth look good at all. Like, they looked worse after his testimony, and that's a fact. If you want to go find his testimony, I'm telling you, the cross-examination was crazy work. Crazy work. And this is a good point. Trooper Joe shouldn't have been labeled an expert. See, this is what I'm talking about. If he's an expert, you got to treat him like an expert, right? And what this man said was, they are over trying the case. They're overcharging her. They charge her with second-degree murder, people. Second-degree murder. Why are you charging this lady with second-degree murder, and all you have as a weapon is the tail light passenger side of this lady's vehicle? But then the autopsy shows that the man was beaten to death.
See Trooper Joe's testimony.
I don't think it matters. I think the jury, for the most part, has pre-made up their mind, even though they will say under oath they have not. And I'm wondering if they're going to hear.
Trust our jurors.
I didn't say our jurors. Those jurors. I think they've been so amassed with so much pro Karen Reed, hate Karen Reed, love Karen Reed.
They're hearing
She's
it outside the
framed.
window, and they're like, free Karen Reed, and they're hearing it.
Not this time.
They will.
Not yet.
They will. They'll get microphones.
But you're like, all right, if they were chanting it last time and they heard it, they didn't free Karen Reed last time, so apparently they need to scream louder. I don't know.
Most of them tried to free her. They just didn't record the decision particularly well.
On counts 1 and 3. Count 2, there was a split, and it was more towards conviction, but for the lesser included of count 2. I want you to take a listen to this. This is Daniel Wolf. This is one of the ACA, we call them ACA experts in the case, who investigated the case or was hired by the feds who were investigating the investigators, and now the defense has adopted them as their experts because their report, before the defense ever hired them, helped what the defense was arguing. Let's take a look.
Was there any apparent damage to the Lexus that appeared consistent with any kind of pedestrian interaction that you saw?
No, it was really confined to just the taillight, a very isolated portion of the vehicle.
In your expert opinion, based on all your testing, is the damage to the taillight that you saw consistent with striking a human head?
No.
In your expert opinion, is the damage to the taillight consistent with striking a human arm?
No.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, so let me ask you. Now we've got experts, and both sides. They testify a lot. They're very educated. They know what they're talking about, but it's going to be both sides. This is going to be more of a classic battle of the experts. Last time defense won. So what does the jury do with that? Do they just make up their own minds?
They have to listen and they have to see who they resonate with.
Correct.
It's not what he or she, in this case, he's testified to. It depends on how they testify. How do they relate to the jury?
100%.
What the body language, the facial expressions. That to me is
who they like.
Exactly.
And who they don't like.
Literally, that is really always the case with experts.
But really, you've got to remember, this isn't a civil case. This is a criminal case. The Commonwealth's expert doesn't just need to equal the defense
That's
expert.
true.
They need to go above and beyond and cover beyond reasonable doubt. When there's a conflict between two very smart, qualified experts, and there's a legitimate disagreement as to what the conclusion is, that's a defense victory.
But maybe Trooper Joe Paul will then come in right after, and then
I don't think they should bring him in. I think they should.
I have a feeling he still will.
He was
That's
very
why.
nervous.
I agree, but I think he'll come back in.
I'm sure a great guy. He didn't have the experience of testifying as an expert. But now that he's got one trial under his belt, to be much more, much more relaxed.
The experience.
Okay, something else I want you to see. I want you to see. This is from Inside Edition. We got it. Here's Karen Reed outside of the courtroom yesterday.
I'm here. We're fighting. We'll keep fighting. I feel strong, so I feel good.
How do you feel about the former juror who's actually on your team now?
I'm sorry that I have these pickle chips in my mouth, but I feel just another resource. How did this land? How did even jury selection go for the jurors, the prospective jurors? So just another resource that we're utilizing.
Yeah. What does it mean to you to have her a part of your team?
I just feel lucky. I'm not paying any of these people. They're not asking for anything.
Wow. What do you think of that?
I think they're being paid, whether she is direct.
Wow. Boy, oh boy. Ain't that something?
Paying them or not, they're being paid.
And by the way, he's saying they're being paid. Now he's a lawyer now, so he would know. He would know. But she wouldn't she know more than he would, because she's the actual one that's supposed to be paying him. Again, you know, Karen Reed had a lot of money for left from her like her 401k and all that kind of stuff, retirement, not retirement, but 401k account and stuff like that. They was talking about that in the documentary and stuff like that too. But yeah, you know, this is what I'm saying. She talks too much. She talked too much. Didn't nobody have to know that? This is what I'm talking about. You're not being wicked smart.
What do you think of that?
I think they're being paid, whether she is directly paying them or not, they're being paid. And by the way, I've got pickle chips in my mouth.
The fact that she's talking, I can't believe any lawyers.
This is why this channel, the Biz Nation, this is why we are what we are. We think over here. We have common sense. We use our abilities that God gave us. We use our discernment that God gave us, and we do our thing. This lady just said what we've been saying this whole live stream. I can't stand that she's talking. Okay? She's talking too wicked much. She's talking too wicked much. She needs to be quiet. Why isn't Alan Jackson telling her to stop talking? When the press come up to you randomly on the street, no comment. No comment. The evidence in this case shows us, if you live above ground and you got common sense, the evidence shows that that a car tail light, a SUV tail light, did not do all of this stuff to this man. He had two black eyes. He had abrasions on his arm. He had a 2-inch laceration on the back of his head. He had a cut in the nose. He was hemorrhaging. He had a bad pancreas. What are you doing? You don't need to talk. I'm gonna put a gag order on my own client. but that's what she's doing. That's what she's doing. She's talking too much, and her team is letting her talk. It's ridiculous.
allowing her.
Paid.
I hate
And by the
that
way,
she's
I've got pickle
talking.
chips in my
The
mouth.
fact that she's talking, I can't believe any lawyer is allowing her out there. Period.
They need to pay someone to follow her around with, exactly. She does not need
What did
to
she
be
say
saying
that was bad, though? She
everything. Her voice, her mere existence and speaking is a problem for her case.
You can't do that right now. This is a
Well, the
murder
jurors
trial.
can't watch the news. They're told
It
not to
doesn't
watch the
matter.
news.
I'm sure they didn't watch the news. They don't look at social media.
Again, you don't
none
trust
of that.
our jurors.
No, it's not that. It's that they're inundated, and
Come on.
by
I know.
existing, they're inundated. And by the way, they need to teach Karen Reed one thing: KYD VMS.
Yes,
Keep
please.
your damn big mouth
shut.
All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk more about Karen Reed in front of the jury. Plus, coming up next hour.
August.
Keep your big mouth shut. This is what we need. We need we don't need a free Karen Reed crew no more. We need a shut up Karen Reed crew. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. We need that. It's like, dog, you see, sometimes people don't know that they've already won or that they're winning. They're so, and this is the reason why I asked the question I asked. She is doing the most. This documentary, although I'm a fan of it, it's a good documentary. And when I say good, I'm talking about the way it was directed, the interviews, the everything. I love documentaries, especially about true crime and stuff like that. I love documentaries. And I'm telling you, when I saw this, I'm like, yo, this made me dive into the case more. Then I started seeing evidence of certain things. Then I started getting like videos of officers potentially tampering with the vehicle and things of that nature. Okay. And I'm telling you right now, she needs to be as quiet as possible. You are ahead right now. You need to be quiet. She just can't shut up. Dang.
Or annoyed, or that Karen Reed had gotten representation, legal representation, to represent her.
No, not at all. That's her right.
Well, let me ask you this. In August of 2022, you said you absolutely hate it, correct?
I don't know if I use absolutely. Yeah, I didn't use absolutely, sir.
You used truly, correct?
Truly, yes.
How do you feel about it now? Sitting right there.
I still don't care for him now.
I'll let it stand.
That was not the only moment during Karen Reed's first trial where she had a visible reaction to testimony or things that are happening in the courtroom.
Right.
You know, we watch a lot of trials and sometimes we talk about defendants and say they just sat there and did nothing. That's not Karen Reed. You could almost understand what she's thinking.
This is the sociopathic behavior I'm talking about. My boy Vinny is coming through in the clutch like Steph Curry, okay? This is what I'm talking about, people. It's everything. It's body language. It's what you say. It's how you say it. It's what you feel when you say it. The only time she cries in the documentary is when it has something to do about herself. Now, taking into account, she's doing this in front of the jury. Not the jury like, man, I agree with her. Like there's an influential nature inside of body language. You can't be looking like this at a trial. This is a murder trial. This is a murder trial. You cannot look like this. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. This is equivalent to what Miss Love was doing in the YSL trial. And the jury is 3 feet away from her, 5 feet away from her. And you're making these expressions and you're whispering and you're doing all these things to draw attention to yourself, not realizing that you are the culprit. In the minds of a lot of people, you are allegedly the culprit. You're the culprit. You're the one that did this. This is on you. And they're not concerned about anything else but getting you. There were times in the trial where she looked back at the prosecutor and gave him a weird face because he asked a certain question. You cannot do this. This is the reason why the defense needs to put her in check. This is your life we're talking about, man. And you don't want to be labeled a cop deleter. They haven't done that to her at all. I'm actually kind of shocked that they haven't reached that level of craziness. But this is what I'm talking about right here. This is what makes me skeptical of the fact of her when it comes to, okay, did you have any idea that this was a possibility? And you were talking to, even though it was flirtatious, however, you were talking to one of the men that was inside the house where John O'Keefe was at the time. You were having conversations with him on text. What about phone call? When you go home by yourself and you talk on the phone, have you ever called Brian Higgins and been like, what up, though? B. Higgs, what up, though? I've been watching you. You've been watching me. You feel what I'm saying? Come on, man. You got it. We have to put things into perspective objectively. Like you're just doing the most right now. It's uncalled for.
Thinking during certain moments of the trial,
look at this.
When she's reacting to things that are happening, whether it's arguments by counsel, a ruling by the judge, or testimony from the witness stand. Do you remember this? This came out after the first trial because we didn't know about it beforehand, but some information came out after a ruling by the judge that Juror A stated that Juror B had made comments to her about the defendant's facial expressions during the trial. The court ultimately decided to dismiss just Juror B from the jury because you can't make comments like that. And I think Juror A ended up off the jury as well. But from what I'm taking away from that is not the misconduct by the juror, which it was and should have been dismissed for talking about the case before deliberations, but getting inside the mind of the juror, that the juror was noticing the expressions of Karen Reed during the course of the trial. Take a look. One more I have here. This is Jennifer McCabe is testifying. Take a look at Karen Reed as this is happening.
You didn't say to Mr. O'Keefe, you're coming with me. You said to Karen Reed, you're coming with me, or something to that effect, right?
Mr. O'Keefe was not outside when I said to Karen, you're coming with me. I told Karen, you're coming with me because John was still in the bar with Matt.
So you asked Karen to come with you in your car.
Oh my God, this is nasty work. This is nasty work. Mr. Yannetti is right next to her, man. Calm her down, bro.
Karen Reed as this is happening.
You didn't say to Mr. O'Keefe, you're coming with me. You said to Karen Reed, you're coming with me, or something to that effect, right?
Mr. O'Keefe was not outside when I said to Karen, you're coming with me. I told Karen, you're coming with me because John was still in the bar with Matt.
So you asked Karen to come with you in your car?
Yes.
To give her a ride?
Yes.
Separate from John O'Keefe?
Yes, I figured he could go with Matt because they were still in the bar.
Was there a reason why you wanted to separate Miss Reed from Mr. O'Keefe at that moment?
No.
Why not just walk to your car with Matt and go where you're going to go?
Matt was still inside.
So you thought it was important enough to make the statement, you're coming with me, or something to that effect, to my client, to separate her from John O'Keefe, even though your testimony is John O'Keefe was just inside the bar.
Think Tank back with us. Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. And I want to put it this way. If you're on trial for murder and you are factually innocent, you're going to be upset. You're going to be reacting. You're going to be angry at times, all of that. What I am pointing out here is the fact that jurors noticed it. So yes. Will they change? Will they speak to her during the second trial and say, maybe we shouldn't do that?
Think about
Or be yourself and react to the moment.
No.
What you've got a problem. Somebody has whatever the facial expression is, and you've got 12 men and women over there. 1 or 2 will love it, 1 or 2 will hate it, the rest of them won't notice. You don't know how any particular juror is going to respond or react to that facial expression, that body language. So you teach your client, be impassive if you can.
You're under a microscope, but think about what I would do if I was retrying this case. You have the entire trial on video, have an intern go through, and it's like watching an old football game when you're on Monday morning quarterbacking it. Get all the clips where you think your own vision of it is this was inappropriate, this was not such a good idea, this face wasn't a good plan, and then show it to her and then school her. Now, she's dumb enough to not listen. That's not our problem. But as a lawyer, I would say to all my clients, because I'm under a microscope as well, I've got to make sure that I don't have, my jacket be too long or my hair out of space. They're very judgy. They are very judgy.
Disagreeing.
And I'm really going to push back on this because I want my client to be authentic but just listen. You're being like a lawyer. You're not even listening to the argument. You must have raised children. So what you need, remember, we're not looking at this with 12 people kumbaya get together from Karen Reed's side. We want, just like Daryl said, 1 or 2 people are really going to notice. A bunch won't. We want those people that notice to make judgments because as a defense lawyer, you want to divide that jury. You want some people to say, wow, she looks so mean. And other people go, whoa, why are you being so judgy, juror? Yeah, you're talking about people with a highly polarizing.
You know what? With all due respect to my man, I hear him, but nah. Because see, you can't guarantee that. That's a risk. You can't. We're talking about a murder trial. You can't take risk of this significance in a murder trial. You know what I'm saying? Like the things that Young Thug was doing during the RICO trial. They were the prosecution was trying to attach a murder to it, but they were not on trial for murder. They were on trial for RICO. So him dancing to the music or whatever, like when they was playing his stuff, or the way he looked at sometimes and the way he looked at his moms or whatever, like that's not going to incriminate him. This is going to be incrimination. And if you are not able to control the room, it's going to be impossible for you to guarantee that you're going to divide that jury like that. I understand his strategy and what it is, but it's missing something. It's missing guarantee. You're literally taking a risk on someone else's life that's facing murder. You don't do that. You don't play like that. You don't play like that. So I totally disagree with his particular method in that instance. Although I do understand it, I disagree with it. Let me know what y'all think.
Emotional, engaging concept of trial. I want people to be staring at Karen Reed knowing that this is super real. And as long as she knows they're watching, I'm awesome.
Yeah, but she's not a good I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this out loud. She's not a good person. And so when you look at her, she does not portray the proper defendant qualities that I usually have as my defendants. In other words, there's nothing redeemable about her. I'm not saying she did do it or didn't do it, but everything I ever see about her.
She's factually innocent.
Exactly.
If she's factually innocent and did not do this, isn't it natural to have some anger? A trooper gets up there who was saying all these things about you. They have accused you of things. You know the case as well as your attorneys, if not better, the facts inside out. This is your life that is hanging in the balance.
Okay,
and you just have to sit there like this and take it for 3 months?
You have to take it because as much as you take it, you're giving it. It reminds me of the old days when we had Dan Rather do a film, so how to judge the Emmys, and his sleeve was sticking about 4 inches past his jacket, and nobody heard a word he said. They just
focused on the 4 inches. Yes.
You see, look at this. Look at
I've got another one for you.
Their socks are next.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at another moment from the first trial. Katie McLaughlin is on the stand and Karen Reed reacting. Let's watch.
Do you know any of Caitlin's siblings?
No.
You don't know Brian Albert Jr.?
No.
Do you know any of her extended family that might be a little closer in age to you, like Colin Albert?
No.
Have you ever met any of them?
Not that I recall.
Not that you recall, or no?
I don't remember meeting any of them.
Your Honor, that's all I have right now.
Now, she said, and this was interesting, in the documentary that everyone's watched recently, she was talking about, I'm tired of being judged. Like I look down to the right, up to the left, because this is when she's being interviewed and answering questions. She says, it's like too much already, it's ridiculous. And it's But the problem is that when you get inside a courtroom, 12 people are judging you.
Correct.
And that's their job. Their only job is to judge you.
And by the way, Vinny, it wasn't a documentary. It was a docudrama. And that to me is a very big difference between just the facts, as Joe Friday would say, or the facts as you see them.
But lean into being judged, because that's why she's there, and know that the brass ring is dividing that jury. That's what you got to do. Stop worrying about, is someone going to dislike? I hope people dislike her. I hope people like her. I hope people have very firm opinions as to whether she did or did not do anything, because that creates a win if you're a defense attorney. Now, the state, I bet the state also really wants her to make lots of expressions, because they can then comment on that and say, y'all have watched Miss Reed during this trial. You've seen her reaction, her incredulity, I'm going to mispronounce that word, about these allegations.
And how cold she is about the fact that someone's dead and there's an actual person dead in the storyline. She's like,
She thinks she's above it. She thinks she's completely above it, and it's something going on that she's watching and observing, as opposed to being the focal.
Powerful for the Commonwealth to be able to use her expressions to build a tribe of conviction, while the defense says no, absolutely wrong. Some of you are judging her on her face that she's guilty or not guilty. If you can't all agree, that's an acquittal under the rules of the law in America.
Do you think she'll change?
No.
No?
No, and that's spelled out,
It'll be the same in the second trial.
It will be.
Everybody said
You just saw her yesterday do something that's not right.
Yo, everybody said no. It's hilarious, man. It's crazy work. Yo, this is crazy, man. This is what I'm talking about right here. This case is something that I think is really radical when it comes to the evidence versus the actual accusal. It's like you're accusing her of doing this. However, the evidence and the autopsy doesn't even show that the tail light of a vehicle can do all of that damage. So if she was to hit John, but with her passenger tail light, but he's on the left side of the street, like, how did that even come about? What happened in the process for her to even think she hit him? You know what I'm saying? Why would she say, did I hit him, when you waited for him to come back out and you left him? I don't know. It's a lot to unpack. All I know is that I haven't made a full decision on what I think about what she should have been charged with. Because if she did hit him with her vehicle, her hitting him with the vehicle did not cause his death. That's facts. The cause of death has nothing to do with the vehicle hitting him at all. So I can't put all my eggs in that basket on the fact that Karen did it. So I am still going to be definitely now. I'm going to be looking at this case with an iron fist, with a microscopic lens, trying to figure out what is going on. In the meantime, it's still they're still doing jury selection on this case. It's going to take. I think they want 16 from what I researched and been following. They want between 16 to 18 jurors, and they want to have enough jurors on the case in case there needs to be an alternate. I think so far right now it's split in half. I think it's 5 men, 5 women. So it's 10 people. It's 10 people that have been selected to be on the jury, and 5 are men and 5 are women. And so I think the next, maybe, let's see, Monday is the 7th. So maybe the next 2 or 3 days, we will get a full jury, possibly, or maybe till the end of next week. Who knows? But in the meantime, in between time, I appreciate everybody rocking with me again. Once again, we've been at this since 7 o'clock, and we have been doing our thing. I appreciate the mods coming through, and I appreciate Cat Not Williams coming through, you know what I'm saying, and saying what's up to your boy. I definitely appreciate it. But we're about to go ahead and call it for the night. I am excited about, the future of what's going on. As you can see, I'm making a few changes. Change the logo. Shout out to Chill for helping me with the logo. Change the logo and also change the look of the channel. And then I'm definitely going to be doing some more stuff outside of just court cases. I'm going to also be doing some other things as well. But again, I want to say thank you to everyone for rocking with me tonight. And we're about to go ahead and go home, man. So y'all be safe if y'all driving or whatever the case may be. If y'all at the crib chilling. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And let's get up out of here, man. Let's go.
I brought that with me. Case they get too easy. Baby, don't stress, don't sweat it. Put it all on my daddy. Know how I'm coming. And they know what we hang around through that left side, low end. All of mine need more wins. If you got beef, don't come out. Cause my young hitter might go in. Uptown GN. Working all through my weekend. Hoping these don't show out. Cause all of my hitters too deep in. With the boy, I'm so ashamed. Ain't worried about long as my money and my green. Baby, I ain't got work tomorrow. Tell me what the business is. Ain't about no club hop. I'm trying to start some businesses. Shorty, you thought it was, they better know it's not that. Talking all that online, they knowing that it's not fake. Sliding through my hood, I make maneuvers like a Uber, baby. Got a 10-year plan, these can't tell what they doing lately. And I'm way too clean, I'm Listerine, I thought they been knew it. All in my lungs, I got my red cup full of that Henny fluid. Young middle Mac, I'm swinging that leg, I'm banging that do or die. And I ain't that Lily before I get crucified. Living in my bloodline, this place in my family tree. How the they pressed, I did my best out of what they handed me. Straight out of that country, know my shawty dick as humid air. And I need not mention no extensions, that's